Good afternoon, open meeting. It's 2:00, everyone's here. We will
Can you
review
just
the
get better for
December meeting minutes. Sorry?
Can you announce everybody who is here? We can't quite, can't see our.
I don't know. We
What?
don't have to announce.
You don't have to
who's all
announce
here.
who's
You don't have to say
No,
who's here?
no,
No.
we're all here. We
We're
have
here.
a quorum.
There's only 3 of us.
We can introduce ourselves. We can introduce ourselves when we have the hearing.
Okay.
Done. Okay, we'll review the minutes.
Yeah, and I think this has the key thing that we had to go back and change, so.
Did we have to fix something?
Yeah, we had a fixed thing about, remember, it was appointed as opposed to being reappointed.
Okay.
So that had to be changed on the 19th.
Okay.
So we don't have to bring the 19th back again, right?
No. I think we approved it.
We approved it with that
With the
change.
change.
Yeah, okay,
So-
we're good then.
Yep,
All right, I make a motion then to
except,
accept the meeting minutes of December 16, 2024, as written.
I'll second it.
All in
All in
favor?
favor? You want to abstain?
I don't know. I
Okay.
wasn't involved in
Doc,
that.
Doc is abstaining, okay. Okay, Ken, do you want to give us any information on the new business?
Yeah, so office-wise, I think we only have 1 or 2 permits left to get out, which is a pretty good place to be at this point in January. So annual, 1 or 2
Good.
annual permits. And they were, honestly, there were couple of the corporate ones that had some changes and they filed with us late.
Oh, they had changed, okay.
Yeah, so I think some permitting people changed, so it was some administrative issues, not restaurant issues. So, we're good.
All in all, do you have a number on how many permits were issued between hotels and restaurants?
Between both? No. I don't know. I think we're at 92 restaurants.
Yeah.
92 food
I
establishments?
think so. Food establishments right now. I had to go back. We were between 90 and 95 in the past couple of years, and we lose one, grab one type stuff. So, and we lost a couple, and we have 2 in the pipeline. There's a couple that are hoping in February, March open up. Those are coming in, so we're still hovering that same 90 to 95 range. Hotels, I couldn't answer. All the hotels that we had are relicensed, so nobody closed.
So everyone's
Everybody's real.
up to spiff, they're all,
Well, they're all permitted. That's a different different standard.
how is the tattoo festival applications?
We have a few come in. I don't know where we're at, 5 or 10.
Yeah, I
But-
would say a lot more earlier on than
Earlier?
ever seen before. So I expect with the trend we will have more this year than last year.
Really?
I think so because they're new faces. They're not repeat. So,
Yep.
Yep.
But-
That's good.
The application is up, and the application's with Zaza, and we're
Yeah.
prepped, and they're building a spreadsheet, so we're proactive there.
Yes.
They have been in touch with us like on a regular basis?
No.
No.
We've reached out and spoke with them once, I think.
Once,
Yeah. So
I guess as we get
As
closer.
you get
But
closer.
there's really nothing that we would need to talk to them about
Yeah,
per
no.
se. So everyone right now really has the skin course, which was what we would communicate mostly with them.
Right.
Otherwise, just making sure no one's an apprentice.
So we're good on that side. On office stuff, that was our updates with the permitting. We had, we narrowed it, I can't say narrowed it down, but we got 5 candidates for interviews last Friday for the health inspector position. Linda and I held those interviews last week, and we have some other budgetary concerns coming in from finance and town administrator that we're working through that we need to talk to the board about once we have some better answers on budget.
Some budgets, right?
So,
Can you speak up a little bit?
yeah, I can speak up a little bit.
Just a little hard of hearing, that's all.
I can
I
yell.
think I'm getting hard of hearing. I'm wearing
God,
Walkmans when I'm in
please,
charge.
That's fair. So, anyways, we had the interviews last week, and we haven't gone past that until we have a better answer from from finance, and we know what's going on.
With finance tomorrow.
I'm meeting with Barbara tomorrow
Barbara
on a
tomorrow.
couple of budgetary items.
Go through like what we have in our different funding.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's tomorrow. What time are you meeting?
10:30?
Or
So once we wrap that up, or once I have a better idea, we'll get back together and have a conversation about who we're going to narrow it down to, second round of interviews, who we might like to make an offer, that kind of stuff. We'll have that conversation next. So, okay? Outside of that, obviously Molly's still here. So happily working through the coalition. We still see her 2 or 3 days a week. So that's helpful on our side.
Molly's not allowed to leave the coalition.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't want to leave. Let's make that on record. I like it.
Okay, great.
Good.
Sam made a full month. She's still here. Look at that.
Congratulations, Sam.
So yeah, those are the big major updates. There weren't a lot. It was kind of quiet. Well, most of our stuff was was permitting through December. So
Did you see the thing I had sent about bird flu to see if we could get that posted up on the website?
working on the website.
You got that?
Yeah, working on updating the website.
Okay, yeah, I just sent some information that came from CDC and APHIS,
Yep.
which is through the USDA,
Yep.
on dealing with hunters that hunt and dead birds and things and backyard chickens.
Yep, saw that. So it's working on. Those are going to be posted up on the website. She'll have those done.
That request came in through a resident and actually someone on the finance committee. So I said that we'll look into it and we'll get it, something
Something
posted. Posted on the town Board of Health website, so.
We should have that up by next week sometime.
Okay, I'll let them know.
Yeah.
And anything else? Does anyone else want to bring up anything for the office? Anything on the coalition? Molly, you want to?
I'm just doing more trainings. I have tobacco training. I have my CPO training next week. So lots of training, lots of classes.
You're going to be you're not going to be working through the tobacco coalition, are you?
Not the tobacco coalition, but there are towns that are part of the coalition that are not part
not.
of it. Correct. So I will be doing.
Tobacco
I would
enforcement?
assume so. Yep.
Okay.
So I'll start that training.
Interesting. All right, so we have 208.
Yep.
We have to wait till.
It's not. It's up to you guys on your choice. It's not a posted
All right, it's
hearing.
not a
Yeah,
hearing.
it's not a
Oh,
posted
yeah,
hearing,
yeah,
so you can
right,
do
right,
it.
right, right.
Bob's
Madam
got
Chairman?
his hand up.
Yes.
On the office, I do want to ask about our next meeting. Timing of our next meeting.
We'll discuss it at the end. We want to do it.
Time?
Yeah, at the end of our meeting, we'll discuss our next meeting. We have to do an executive session, and also we want to start talking about the budgetary information that Ken gets from tomorrow's meeting. We want to discuss at our next meeting,
Yeah, so
so that we could decide when,
yeah, because that, I can't make that it. Okay, yeah,
yeah, we can discuss that before we adjourn.
okay.
Yeah, you can move this up.
Yeah, all right, so
Yeah,
we'll
let's
go
do that
ahead
now.
and start 208. We'll have Deep Roots Distillery, local grease trap regulation variance review. You guys can come up, introduce yourselves.
And I'm
Want us
not
to
sure
sign
you
it also?
sign
Yeah,
in, so we know you're here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just pull up.
These are my voice. That ain't good.
You guys, we're being taped too, just so you know.
Yep.
Sure.
We usually let the public know, but we don't usually tape our meetings, but fortunately, we have a lot of other things going on, so for the public who might be interested. So,
No problem. So my name is Erica Devrin. I'm one of the owners at Deep Roots. They want you to.
Yeah, I'm Tom Kane, I'm one of the other owners.
And Keith Deverin, also one of the other
This
owners.
is 12. Oh, wonderful.
So Ken, Molly, why don't you guys kind of give us a review on why we're here? If you want to quickly just give us, I know we've given a variance out
Yep. We've given variance out. You got a.
in 2021, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
So the reason that we were here at this point is over the past few years, the original variance was given out on their original menu, and you gave the variance. And over the past 2 years, the menu has expanded significantly, and we have the distinct,
Referred to as creep, menu creep.
that's what you
If
want to
you
look
want
at
to
it
call
as.
it that, you
Right,
can call it that.
Yeah.
Yep. So with all the other variances that we look at and do every year when we review stuff, between this menu creep and what appears to be the likeliness of catering out of the menu or using it as a possible commissary, we want to have this discussion or have you have this discussion and
So can you kind of go through
converse with it, talk.
this first one, the original
Is
one?
this the original?
Okay.
Can I
Yeah.
chime in a little bit?
Yeah,
So
sure.
that one was done in '21 when we had to go for the variance, which was prior to us opening. So we really had no idea what we were.
So this is your original menu?
This is what we get.
We actually never used that menu.
You never
That-
used this
no,
menu?
That menu was done prior to us opening. We were asked to put together what we thought. We had something close to that, but we did send in our menus when we did our annual reviews. We didn't know we had to come back for a variance or a re-review of our variance for the grease trap. We just thought by sending our menus
this
in
one?
annually that,
This one's from the 2022?
Yep.
Okay, so that must have been the one the next year, okay.
And then this is 2022,
Yeah,
right?
that one was stamped, yeah. So that was that.
And you guys, look,
They're in order.
Okay, you had no problem with that, okay.
it's kind of similar.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, very similar.
Yeah, that's not a big
Yeah,
deal.
chips also, yeah. Crackers, blah, 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 yeah, air fried dipping.
so we do no frying on site. Everything is farm fresh. We do have a letter from Helgerson's, who pumps our grease trap, to let you guys know what was in the grease trap. We also have BMPs in place for our fogs in our kitchen. Everybody's trained on that, and we go through every menu. Anytime we change a protein or anything, we go through the fats, oils, and greases and how we're going to handle them. Most of them are either reused, or we have livestock bucket that at the end of the night is sent to a farm. And most of it goes into that unless it's going into the trash.
Okay, how often are you being cleaned out, the trap?
Currently, every year, based on our annual, we had what does this say? What was it? 2 inches of scum cap and 1 inch of sludge after a year, which I'd be happy to.
What year is that?
This is from this past
The
year.
last past one?
Yep. We can do it more often, but I mean,
Yeah, if it's not- if
Helgerson
it's not
said,
full.
yeah, that we really don't even have enough in the annual for them to come out, but obviously they come out as part of our annual review for the health department.
So what do you think that it's being cleaned out at that level? Yeah, sure.
Commissary kitchen,
Yeah, I don't know
no
where that
idea
came
where
from.
that came from. We have no interest in doing that at all.
No
That is
no
not-
one's leasing our kitchen space. Adam is on staff, if that's what you're talking about, maybe. He's our
That is what we're
chef.
talking about, because he does have stuff, and we were approached by 3 different boards of health looking for permits and stuff, as you guys as a bakery, you guys as a caterer, and you guys as a potential commissary for his catering.
So can you answer who? so
Worcester,
the-
Palmer, and I forget what the third one was, but those
Okay,
are the
so
two.
Worcester was a farmer's market that we were doing, so we were using the same stuff that we use. So our baked breads, which we use on our paninis, we were just bringing those out.
You're asking, I'm telling you, we were approached and they were asked if you were a bakery, and we said, no, you're not a
We're
bakery.
not a bakery.
Somebody had to apply and tell them that, so,
Well, I applied to the Worcester. I can tell you that I did not tell them we were a bakery, but we do bake bread in-house, yes. We bake our own bread.
yep.
And
So,
we use it on our paninis and we sell it at the farmer's market. That's what that was for.
okay, you're asking, I'm explaining what we were approached by, so, and you weren't it's not like, this isn't just you. We have grease trap variances all over town, and I've got a sewer department that works with us regular, and up and down Main Street, we do enforcement regular. So, prior to it getting that way, this is part of the review that goes on.
Okay.
And You know, as far as the sewer department's concerned, they'd be happy if there were no variances given anywhere. And as far as we're concerned,
understand.
would they grant variances based on what the hope is in doing this stuff? So you're here trying to hope that we keep it in the variance and keep it working, and that there wasn't any else that we had to worry about moving forward. So
How
that's,
often does your menu change?
So we change our proteins seasonally.
Okay.
So like we have a chicken panini, it might turn into a steak panini. We went from a salad section to a soup section for the winter. So we switch it out now. So it's basically the same format that we put in, and then we change it like that. We take into consideration seasonal vegetables and seasonal fruits that we can get from farms. We don't have a Cisco truck ever pulling up to our door. It's all farm fresh. Every Wednesday, Adam goes from farm to farm and grabs what he needs, and when we sell out, we sell out. You could come into our tasting room and say, you know, I like this, and oh, sorry, we have sold out of that. We don't overmake, we don't take things from one weekend to the next weekend. It's very cut and dry. We're a distillery that serves food. We're not a restaurant. We don't have anywhere near the food going through as like, say, Stonewall used to have, or even probably Sawdust. Like, I mean, if we're running 10 food items in a busy night, that's, 10 tables, right? I mean, I think that's probably,
So are you guys allowed to just serve liquor with no
no,
food?
the
No.
town doesn't allow that.
Yeah,
Okay.
no tan.
So if you sit down at a table, you have to order some kind of food?
No, we
No,
have
but
to offer
you
it.
gotta offer food.
Oh,
Right.
offer it, but not-
Right, so that's why sometimes
I
we'll
didn't
have
know
people
some-
that just come for our spirits, which are also all natural, and we grab stuff from local farms for that as well. We're very much about supporting local. We're also, Keith and I are Sturbridge residents for 20 years, so this stuff's important to us as well, like the sewer issues. So we're trying to make sure that we're doing the right thing.
Just
Yeah, I'm
answer-
sure.
Can you answer my
I
question?
wanna-
Why did Worcester come? I just want to go over this.
because they were
again.
checking on permits when they were asking for stuff, when they were looking to go to farmers markets. So I guess that was
Okay.
your statement, and I think that's where we're at this point, is you are a distillery that has to serve food. Part of the conversation with the variance and looking at this is truly, that's where you started, and that's where we're hoping that you stay. And we have no interest in wanting to enforce on that. This is another follow-up on a variance where there's menu creep and there's stuff going on, and there's kitchen creep where there's stuff that's being added and discussed. I think on our side, it's to talk to us like we originally thought we were gonna do versus we find out other ways. And as you know, everybody comes to people and does stuff. If you're doing something that somebody else doesn't think they can do, unfortunately, we hear about it, even if we don't want to hear about it. So that's part of this situation, is be happy that that's the way it stays and way it moves forward. And if this is where it gets to and we're at the end of that portion and we're good and we're all happy moving forward, I think that's going to be fine. I think this is let's reevaluate the variance, and are you doing something different or planning on doing something different? Do you want to be a kitchen? Do you want to be a food service establishment? That's where it's looks like it's heading and where we're looking at it.
Also, there's the thing where the other towns contacted you. Some of that was bad info on our part because we didn't know how to go about the permitting thing. So they all told us, well, go back to Sturbridge and get whatever they were asking us. Like, remember at the beginning when we were we had no clue, we were given all the wrong info. So what we were asking you made no sense whatsoever on your end too, I'm saying. So that was like,
And that doesn't want to flag this. There's a whole pile of things that got this here, and you are
Yeah.
not the only one. There's variance hearings next month and probably in March too. So this has been ongoing and continually going, and more of these are happening. Good, bad, or indifferent. I'm happy and healthy, and I'm in the office all the time now, and it can follow up on all these things that have been kind of gotten out of whack. But we have a bunch of enforcement going on Main Street between us and the sewer department with other things going on. So revisiting grease trap variance or however you want to look at grease diverter variance is the first step towards maintaining that portion. And if you guys are happy staying in this range of stuff and not continuing on, this is Adam Pop's ones, this is your next one, this is
Yeah, so that is the menu that we use, and I have
Last one.
brought,
Yep.
because I think
Last
we
one.
changed in January, but we put the information in whatever time that is. It's the same format, but I can show you where the proteins change. So we're keeping it on the same
And
menu.
seasonal changes, that's what we
Yeah.
expected. When we talked and had
Yeah.
those conversations, that's what we fully
So that's what
expected.
we are
You
doing.
told us when we
Yep.
first got the variance, we're gonna do seasonal changes.
Yep.
Expect that. But from the first menu to this menu, there is a significant change.
Oh, for sure.
And
Yeah.
then there was more coming. So this is do you want to be a food service establishment? If you do, let's get into that realm and get that done. If you want to stay this point, how do we do that and go that route? And more of a reminder on, you have a variance for a reason, so you have low grease output and we don't have other issues going on.
So I can tell you that is the menu that we stay with, so this is the one that we put in.
Yes.
And this is the one that we have currently, and the only difference is the proteins on the sandwiches, and we pulled out the salads and put soups on. In the spring, it'll probably go back because people don't want salad when it's freezing cold outside. So there's that. We also just started brunch, which takes place on Sunday only. This goes away,
Okay.
and it becomes just this. Only with seasonal changes, same menu, so I will hand this to you.
Okay.
And we do sit-down meals. Again, this goes away and this gets replaced.
Okay,
So it's only one menu's running at a time.
so it's not this and that and the next. You
At the same time,
empty
no.
this out and then change out. Okay,
Right.
this is
Yeah.
part of the
That's
conversation.
what you needed to know.
Yeah.
So,
So that is what we're doing. Part of the original menu too is it was too small for people to read, so I had to blow it up. We had clientele that was like, I just can't read this. So we did a little bit of that and try to make the format a little bit easier to read.
yep. And understand that you're not the only one in the mill yard, and you're not the first one here for any sort of variance or grease trap discussion in the past 2 months. There's been others already here. There's only one pipe that goes across that road. I've been informed that there is a dip in that pipe, so if grease does block that pipe or does whatever, whoever's operating in the mill yard will be responsible for that. That's from the sewer department to my department.
So in that case,
And
I
so,
have a
and
question.
currently, that's, hasn't been an issue. So this is as part of the ongoing conversation. It has more to do with the owner of the mill yard and not necessarily, and they've had this conversation at length, and we understand that. And we're looking at other ways to take care of that, because it would have been nicer if there was just an external grease trap out there from the get-go. But
We understand the
unfortunately, we're
landlord
stuck with
issues.
individual stuff, so we're dealing with
Yep.
it individually across the board and making sure everybody's still trying to stay inside their variance.
And I spoke to Shane about our grease trap, and he said, what we had, and he told me, I have nothing to do with grease traps, so he has
Talking
no
about
authority.
DPW.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
And-
doesn't
but he
want
did-
to have anything
no,
to do with it.
exactly, but he did say that after a year, just having that much in the grease
The
trap
amount
is
you're
not
getting
a lot.
pumped out is.
Yeah, that's after 12 months.
Yeah, and we, like I said, we are aware, I mean, we have, and I brought like the stuff that we have in our kitchen. We do have a plan that follows our menu, so like, we have kids that work for us. Where we say we hire all of the kids from Tantascwa, you know, and that's what they know what goes where. You know, this goes in the livestock bucket, and we have, you know, like, no grease signs.
It's just work in the kitchen, or?
We have a couple behind the bar as well. I mean, not children, but.
But yeah, 18-year-old Tantasco graduates behind the bars.
Every one of our employees are either a graduate of Tantasco or a Tantasco current student. It just so happens that way.
Behind the bar at 18?
18.
18,
Yeah.
Yeah, they just can't drink it.
Yeah.
It's an odd.
I worked in a bar,
Yeah.
wasn't allowed to drink.
Yeah.
Are you guys doing any catering?
Like outside catering?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So you have two other menus to give us to go with these?
Yep.
All right. And you guys are good, and this is where you want to stay, and you're not looking to,
Yeah, we're not looking.
I think we've reached our
We're reached
point.
our.
You've
yeah.
reached this far.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
We know we have no more
And
capacity.
we were trying to basically just do a value add. I mean, our whole thing is we support local. We have all natural alcohol. Like, for us to bring in, we do have a couple of frozen, and unfortunately, people love popcorn chicken bites. I mean, they're frozen, but we bake them. We don't fry them. But you know, our thing is we like to, you know, our local charcuterie boards and our bacon from Farm 46, you know, our Still Life Farm produce, like, that's what we're all about. So we wanted to be able to serve good food to our customers coming in, because they're, you know, coming in for what we do, and that's what we do.
So can we get the letter, though? I mean, that's for our records? Do we have it?
We
Yeah, I
have,
can, I'll give you all of this. I have copies for you, so. Yeah.
what we have on,
I mean,
Yeah,
the
we
grease
had
trap
it.
letter.
oh, the grease trap? Yeah.
Well, it's on the
coming
top
into us.
letterhead, so, yeah,
No,
if we
the
can have
grease
that
trap.
one, yeah, how
Yeah.
much they.
One from Helgerson.
Yeah,
one from
that-
Helgerson's
That'll
I
be
have,
fine.
yeah.
That's the basis for the variance.
They don't have a whole lot of grease.
Yeah.
You have it?
No.
I have it all here, I have your copy,
Yep.
yeah, I
Yep.
think this is
Okay,
everything.
then we're good.
You guys want it here?
Thank you. Thanks.
You guys aren't gonna deviate too far from the menu.
No, we have plenty now. Like I said, the only thing we do is we do seasonal changes. And that's really based on what the farms have available. You know, we're lucky enough to partner with Still Life Farm. They have a great greenhouse system. I mean, fantastic. If you ever need greens in the summer, in the winter, they're the place to go. They do all their CSA drop-offs with us, and so we just really try to support. That's why we change. They're in Hardwick.
That one?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have.
All right.
We're good?
I think we're good.
I think we're good.
I think we're good. If this is where you want to be for the year, then that's cool.
Yeah,
Let us know.
absolutely.
And
All right,
Again-
thanks a lot.
Thanks, and
Anything
again,
else, we
it's,
can
come out and talk
contact
to
you.
us if
Absolutely.
you're.
again, it's just, it's not you, it's,
No, we
there's
no,
other
we
people in the
understand.
building too,
Yeah.
which we hope to, what you're doing.
We get it, and we know the building is difficult. Trust me, we have our issues with the
We
landlord
do. We
ourselves.
got a couple. We get 2 more variances applied for February, so they weren't yours, but they're close to you guys. So, all right.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you, guys. Thank you.
And I think we already, your permit was already issued, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yep,
You guys are
based on
set.
the meeting, yep.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you,
Perfect.
guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
226.
Oh, I wanted to wait.
we're just
I just came because
support them.
we support them because they use a lot of our stuff for shop.
We do.
Yeah.
They're number one on the top.
What about your grease trap? By the way, now that you're
I
here,
generate way more or less grease than he does. Way more or less.
way more or
Any
less.
more or less?
You know what I mean.
Oh, I know.
I'm French, okay?
Yeah, that's what it is. Tiramisu. It's French.
Depends on how you spell it. See you guys.
See ya. Thanks.
Okay, so you get your questions answered, that's good.
Questions are answered.
Answered, yeah,
Yep.
that's
And
where you are.
menus are moved. Hey, Heather, how are you?
What do we do here?
Well, we have time, so why don't we take care of your other businesses that you
Yeah,
want
go
to
ahead.
Maybe Heather could actually tell us about Walker Pond.
If you want to ask that while she's here,
He's here?
Yeah.
well, can I put you on the spot for a minute? Sure. You want to? Can you give us a
Keep
quick?
this, we just keep things on the, on our agendas.
You want to give us a? And so this is because it's always running there. Can
It's
you give
always
us
running.
A quick, because I gave him my interpretation of
Pond.
what you told me. Walker Pond, the DOT, Walker Pond, water.
So, we had that presentation. I don't know that you've gotten a chance to see it, but the slides are out there, and I think they did videotape it. The slides are available. I think Ken has a copy of them.
I do.
Basically, what the presentation was about was getting the water to Walker Pond, looking at 3 different options. There were 3 different options that were cost estimated and evaluated for technical feasibility and practicality reasons. They were open cutting the Mass Pike, boring under the Mass Pike, and then also going up around on the bridge and over the bridge. So the quick and dirty of it is the open cutting the Mass Pike will never happen. But, you know, we had to go through the exercise and ask, and DOT was part of the conversation. Boring under the Mass Pike actually came out to be the only feasible option.
Really?
Even though you think it was more expensive. But the issue with going up and over the bridge is it would require us to put a whole nother pressure zone in with more pump stations, and that bridge is not capable of holding a water line. So it would require that bridge to be replaced. So that became a very expensive option between the 2 technical reasons. They estimated to bore under the road to be about $1 million. And then it looked at so that was like one part of it, just getting the water there. The second part was to look at different stages of providing service. So obviously Woodland Circle, Woodland, is that what it's called? I don't know. I'm breaking it up. Woodland, the lowest area has the most contamination. Everybody knew that. So that was like area A, and then we expanded up to area B, and then area C was almost the entire Walker Pond neighborhood. It didn't go all the way down Library Lane and over towards the state beach. And basically that was just to give us an idea of, okay, if you do A, this is the cost, B, if this is the cost, and this is how many people you could serve. The big takeaway from the meeting was even the Mass DOT salt remediation program encouraged more people to sample their wells. So we are in the process of trying to get some information out to them. I'm still waiting back
Okay,
from the Mass Salt Remediation Program to make sure that what we are telling them to sample is what she really wants, like all inclusive. And the reason for that is that if other people can get into the salt remediation program, that is how the cost is going to become more reasonable. So it was $1 million just to get it across, then it went up millions just to put the water line in.
Millions to put it in.
Millions?
Yes.
Plural?
Yeah, I mean, they're rough estimates, they're rough engineering estimates at this point, so I will say nobody wants to be not estimate enough money in there.
right.
But by the time it's pretty big area to try to service. It wasn't as bad down just in the lower area, but there's not very many people. So that makes the cost very high per resident, per homeowner, per household, right? Service. So there's still more work to come, and the biggest point right now I think we're at is trying to encourage more people to sample their wells and contact Mass DOT salt remediation.
They're gonna do this on their own, sampling their own wells? Or
So the first part of to get accepted into the remediation program, you have to do that first sampling, and then they come back out and do the subsequent quarters. Some people are trying to get back into the process because they already had started. The other thing that people have to be aware of is, yes, you do have to remove your own.
What?
No.
Softener.
Salt.
Water softener.
Yeah.
You have to remove using traditional water softening methods and go to the more expensive brine method. So that's one thing you have to do before you can be accepted into the program, because you can't be incurring more salt into your own well, right? Because that could be a source of the salt. The second thing you have to do is potentially treat any secondary contaminants or other contaminations that would make your well not potable. So we also know that they have
Arsenic?
arsenic contamination in that area and some other metals. So, but that doesn't have to be whole house. That can be just underneath your sink to make your sink potable. So that's the difference, but there still is a cost there to potentially getting them in. But we still encourage, I think she still wants to see, even if they have the secondaries, if they have salt, because it's about how many people. And they can't vary from that because they have to have consistent rules across the state. So even though ours is naturally occurring arsenic and naturally occurring other issues, you still have to be consistent across the state. This isn't a program just set up for this one area. It's a global program. So we have to be, as much as people might want some type of variance from that, it's not going to happen. That would be a whole policy changing the state. So if you want anything to happen quicker, which quicker means still multiple years away, you need to get in the program now, sign up to
Treat the secondary, they have to treat for the arsenic.
and remove the salt from your water softener.
And so that, some of the reporting that I think, seems like it's been so long now.
Some of the reporting that you guys had done was showing that the salt could be
Contributing.
affecting, right. It's not going to matter. That would be a
state won't.
statewide, they're not going to consider that in the calculation. Even if it could be, it's an interesting study in more academia study, and more would have to be done to prove it. And I think if you went down that path, you'd be 10 years out.
Yeah, right,
That it doesn't make sense to wait that long. It makes sense to try to follow within the rules of what is already established, which is established across the whole state. This isn't just localized here, right? This is a state policy. So establish those rules, follow those rules, and see how many people you can get into the salt remediation program, because
Estimate about how many wells need to be tested in that area for it to kind of.
no, I mean, she was saying
60, 80?
No, it's not even close to that. We are probably somewhere right about 8 or 9 right now, and if we doubled that, it would probably be something they'd be looking at being feasible.
Has anyone reached out to the?
So a couple of people have reached out to me, and I do need to get back to them about what to do with the sampling, but I reached out to the salt remediation person. I'm still waiting out. So I will follow back up with her now that the holidays are.
From us in any way to help reach out to these people? Because I think if we had tried to reach out to them to maybe get everybody in a room or, yeah.
We did have very good success. We had a lot of people come to the meeting because we did send out letters.
Oh, good. Okay.
Not letters. What I used is the Walker Pond has a Walker Pond Association.
Right.
So the
That's what I was gonna
associations, I had contacts there, so they put it out. We had a lot of people come. I still think they're looking for more information on how to do that, but I think the message to get out there that there are people that are going to sample their wells and understand that even if they don't have salt contamination, they may have some other contamination there too. So I think there's some interest there still, but it obviously is a financial decision when it comes down to it.
To over time.
So Heather, two things. One is, I don't think I've met you, and I wonder if you could introduce yourself to me a little more.
Sure.
for others.
My name is Heather Blakely. I'm the DPW
Oh,
director.
I have met you briefly. I have met you only briefly, yes.
So,
Okay, Heather, and you certainly know what you're talking about. Okay. So is it salt? Is that the contaminant or other contaminants from from Mass Pike?
the main contaminant that they're seeing in their wells that is attributed to the highway would be salt.
Oh, and then,
And it's not all of the wells, obviously. It's, the groundwater is following the topography, and the further you get away from the highway, the less concentration you see. But the houses that are definitely lower in topography, closer to the elevation of the lake, definitely show higher salt contamination level.
the salt is from salting
Yes.
the highway in the winter?
Yep.
Is there any other substitute for that?
No, not.
Did they go to something else now?
Well, we all use different, but they're all still salt derivatives. They still have salt in them. They have enhanced treated salt they probably use in that area, but that area is extremely high traffic rate. So yeah, we could tell everybody that you're going to shut the highway down and not salt, but
They have areas on the Mass Pike where it says no salt area
It
or
says
whatever.
low salt.
Low
Low
salt
salt
area.
area, yeah.
Meaning, put
Meaning
your
what?
skates on, put your skates on.
Yeah, or meaning what? Did they really turn them down? Because
Right,
there's,
yeah.
it's still subject to whatever that driver is doing at that day.
Okay, so you can't, sand and salt or something else
So
doesn't...
sand doesn't actually work. It's actually been proven not to work. It actually lowers the temperature and keeps the ice there longer.
Wow, okay.
So if you remember back in the day when we used to see the white and the sand all down the middle of the road for weeks and weeks and weeks, that's because the sand was actually lowering the temperature, melting temperature, and keeping it frozen better. So we only use sand on gravel roads, because at that case you're reintroducing the sand. So we only use sand on gravel roads. We use a mix then. But the biggest important thing to be able with salt is using the proper amount and not over salting. And the state is making efforts, I would say, to do that. But it's beyond my purview. I wouldn't say that they're always successful, but I think that they're conscious of it. And I think we will see more and more. But right now, the way they've been dealing with locations that are impacted by salt contamination is the salt remediation program, which they do have a program, and I have been involved in this program in other places, and they have implemented it, and they have connected people to water systems and extended water systems, even in this general local vicinity. Not here directly. Well, actually, here in Sturbridge, they did it on Clark Road for the same reason.
Podunk Road too, a while ago, I remember.
So there is reason to believe that they will do. They are trying. I wouldn't say they're not. It just is a program.
It's a long process.
Right. It is a process.
Is there another town or some other way to get water that we could buy or something?
Over there?
No.
I don't.
No. Charlton doesn't come over there, or?
So Charlton system comes right to the condos that are up there on the hill, but they would have the same problem. They can't get across the road. They can't get across the bridge.
Pike, yeah, or the bridge.
The bridge is still the problem there.
Okay, all right.
And their system, pressure-wise, would be questionable also. And I
don't-
know that firsthand because
We
I
don't
used to
have
run
any
that
wells
system.
over there either.
I don't know. I don't know the status of the wells at the actual park themselves, but they're that park's well. They are state wells, or
Yeah,
that's a state park, right?
yes.
Yep, that's State Park.
But you'd have to have a pretty considerable sized well
Yeah.
to be able to service that area.
And that
And that would be a long pipeline still
Right, so
from
you
the
went
same
back there.
idea.
They're not going through the pike, though.
No, but I don't know that that's the
That's not the best solution either.
right long term. And I don't think that the state would be willing to
Do it,
connect
yeah.
all that either. Like,
Because then they'd be
So
responsible.
we're kind of reaching here for things, and there isn't much out there if you
well,
go
I mean,
for it.
obviously, we know that we have the we have the water to be able to provide them right at this point. So that's the good news, like for capacity wise. It's just figuring out how financially it's going to
Cost,
be cost
so it's a
effective.
cost effective, like if you only have 5 houses, they'd rather remediate those
Correct.
5 houses than
Yes.
to like give them a water
Yeah, so
line for 5
individual
houses. Yeah.
remediation.
Which is not their preference either, because obviously, long-term, that well can go bad too. And it's
Exactly.
expensive, because the wells that they're looking at drilling are very, very deep wells. So there's cost associated with that too. So they figure it's about $100,000 to remediate a house if you're gonna drill a well.
Oh, yeah, so
We've done a couple here. We've been part of that program on.
Hold on.
how about, Elon Musk to the rescue?
Sure, if you can figure out how to remove the salt efficiently, let's go for it.
You just have to, he can do it.
Thank you, Heather. I didn't
Are you
think-
good?
Thanks a lot.
I knew I
Now we
sprung
can
that on you. I
check this
appreciate
off
you.
of our list.
No, yeah, we could take it off for the first time in a
Been on
while.
our list for a long time, all this old business stuff.
All right,
Since it's 2:41, if we
we
could
can do it.
actually, yeah.
You guys can start setting up.
We'll
You
start
can
our
start setting
engineering.
up.
Do you guys want to talk meeting times and that kind of stuff? I'll have you a few minutes, or?
Sure, while they get set up, sure.
Okay, which one now do you want?
So we want to have a meeting,
Well, the other one we can talk about. Doc's telling us that he can't make the February 11th, so let's do the regular one since we've already got to set hearings for that one. So I need to know that.
11th, we have hearings scheduled, right?
They're not scheduled yet, but they're slated to be scheduled. So that's our regularly scheduled meeting. Second Tuesday of the month is our regularly scheduled meeting.
I'm good on the 11th. You?
I'm fine on the
Okay,
11th.
so,
Well,
I'm not, I can't come on the 11th, or 12th, I could do 13 or 14, but, or
don't look.
25th.
25th, that's the last,
Pretty far
that's
out.
way out,
that's
yeah.
way out.
What about the 4th?
That's too early?
4th is not enough time for posting.
Oh,
and-
gotcha.
For the posting, right?
The 12th, you said?
No, unless you hold it at 7 o'clock.
Okay, no. At night.
Yeah.
So
What's
when
on
we-
this agenda, Ken? Another variance?
We're looking to have probably 2 variances, at a minimum 2 variances going on, maybe 3. Grease trap variances. They're abundant.
You said the 13th you could do.
13th?
Can you do the 13th?
Yeah.
I don't, and I'll tell you this, I don't know, I'll look in the schedule, but that's not our normal day, so I don't know I can get the
Oh,
We
that's
need to
right.
get the,
but you guys can tell me what you want, and we can work on it.
see if we can get the 13th.
And let us know,
This
if not
room-
me and you
This
and
room
him.
here, yeah, otherwise,
If not the 11th.
him and I will just do the
we'd grab
11th.
two of us.
But
Okay?
if we could get the
13th.
13th up here
Okay.
at 2, right?
Yeah, 2
Still want
o'clock.
to do 2,
Yeah, just let us know, that's all.
just
Okay.
as soon as possible.
And do we need one other meeting, right?
We need to have a, we
When
need
do
to
you want
have
to do that?
a,
That's up to you guys.
Related
we need
I'm
to
stuck
do an
next week.
executive session.
in the budget, right?
Yeah, if you guys just give me some dates out there.
The week of the 27th, I'm good, January. Next week, I got like 3 meetings.
Yeah, I don't want to do next week either.
Yeah, so it gives
I'm
us a
getting
week. I
burnt
could
out
do
from
I
you
can do
guys all
the week
time.
of the 27th.
27th, Doc,
Yeah, I'm just out of town
on
and
the,
rearranged.
on the 27th? The week of the
For 3
27th?
weeks, yeah.
Oh, for 3 weeks. And next
we-
week you're done?
Yeah, I got meetings.
21st, I mean, the 19th, I mean, we're trying January 19th to the,
Anybody have any time in January? You're gone for 3 weeks.
I got a meeting
Starting
Tuesday,
The week
Wednesday.
of the
You know what? I can do the 23rd if we have to,
the 23rd, Doc.
23rd,
of January.
Yes. That would be next Thursday.
okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, let's do that. You'll have the other information, right, about the
Yep.
budget? Okay.
Yep.
January 23rd.
Okay. I will work on,
Do you know if we can get this room?
don't know, but I will work on that and I'll have an answer for you by midday tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah, let me know.
We just need to
You know,
have
worst comes to worst, we can do it down in the office.
We could do it down.
We can do it in the
Do that
office,
too.
Yep,
right?
I know.
Worst comes to
Yep.
worst.
Yep.
Okay.
So
All right, we're good.
we'll figure out something.
All right, thank
So we'll
you.
say the 23rd,
23rd time? You guys have a time you want to look for?
2 again.
2?
2?
Two's fine.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
I will check on that and get back to you tomorrow by midday and get an answer for that one. And the 13th, I'll check on that as well.
Okay.
Okay?
February 13th, right?
Yeah, or the 11th.
23rd.
Or the 11th, one or the
Yeah, if
other.
13 doesn't work on the meeting rooms, then we'll go to 11th.
We'll go to the 11th.
And then you won't be able to be there, right?
On the 11th. I
No,
think, but-
okay.
Yeah.
All right, so, thank you very
There,
much.
just to have an idea, Doc, on a grand scheme, I mean, there are variances to be worked on or applications coming in, but they're grease trap variances. It's not at wells or whatever. This is regular business stuff. So it's a conversation worth having, but it's not like you're missing budget.
No, I think, it doesn't sound critical for me to be there, but.
So,
Yep.
You're lucky if you're not.
Don't start.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
So,
was like dapper today.
Hey, it's 2:46. Let's start our meeting for EA Engineering. Presentation on the landfill survey results, upcoming projects, and the proposed timelines. Thanks for coming, y'all.
thank you.
Guys, just to do a quick intro, because we're
intro,
being
so
recorded,
we know,
and we'll
yeah.
go from there.
Being recorded.
Sure, yeah, I'm Frederick Roach, engineer for EA. I've conducted the landfill inspections over the past 2.5 years, working with Ken over the past 2.5 years in that time frame.
My name's Jonathan Alvarez. I'm a professional geologist, and I previously presented the findings 2 years ago to the board on the capacity analysis.
Okay.
So do you want to just,
Which way do you want to handle it?
Sure.
we're at where we're going.
Yeah.
So this
Yeah.
poster here, if you all can see, this is just a nice aerial that was from a survey back in 2022 conducted by EA. It shows the active, I can point, what best way to do this, point?
Yeah, yeah,
Sure.
point, yeah.
Find a different spot here.
This is the active area, the active filling right here. These are the closed cap landfills, and this is the Chesler property, the south here. Some of the diamonds on here are showing some of the groundwater monitoring wells that we also monitor as part of our evaluation. And subsequent years, we actually found more to the north here. So we're working on a new area at the moment here, but just so you guys are all clear.
So go over that again, that one piece that's darker.
It's the piece right there that's
Right
like
there.
that.
Pulled
That's
out
it.
right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
okay.
That's it, right there that we're talking about?
Correct.
Yeah.
That's the active
That's
portion
the
of our
open
landfill right now.
area that we're working in.
That's the place we're working now, yes.
Yes.
That is a depression.
The other parts are closed
They're all
to
closed.
the sides of it.
And the transfer facility would be up here,
Right.
you know, up more to the east of here, the Breakneck Road comes down here.
Okay, and how many testing points do we have?
Testing wells? You're talking
Testing
about the wells?
Yes.
Currently, there's 12 monitoring wells and also 3 surface water locations.
So they're all over, or they,
Correct, so usually.
DEP approves where they go.
okay.
Correct. So part of the landfill design is upgrading and downgrading wells to monitor the water quality. So there are wells upgrading here, the groundwater flow goes this way towards the river. The wells here, to the south, to the north, to the west, to the north up here, and there's one in the woods, two in the woods up here downgrading.
Because there's a lot of water out here. Is that what we're looking at? Yes.
So.
Okay.
So, as a genesis of this call, I'm going to flip over here. So we're going to EA conducted the annual survey in October of 2024. That we use that data to understand the filling from one year to the next, to give a kind of an understanding in cubic yardage of the areas that we've been filling over the years. comparing that to the design grades that were permitted back in 1988. Very beautiful drawings that we have found. So this this color scheme here shows the areas of, it's difficult to tell the color scheme here, but areas that are say out of compliance or cut fill areas meeting the permit. So the way of saying that is waste filling to meet our required design grades that were established back in 1988. So just to point out a few things here, this little eyeball here is currently the daily cover stockpile that Sturbridge accepts that we stockpile inside the landfill, so kind of like an anomaly there. And as you'll see, some of the pink areas and blue areas are fill areas, and some of the, say, darker red areas, unfortunately, are CAD engineers colorblind, but this pink area is a depression and not an overfill. But there's the redder areas and orange and yellow areas are areas that we've identified that there's waste that's over.
It's over what it should be.
Correct. So this also tells us some of the net fill area that we have left, permitted airspace left in the landfill.
Yeah.
So you'll see a cut fill, but this net fill is 23,142 cubic yards of remaining permitted airspace in the active area of Celtic.
And based on
That.
that and what we're doing on a yearly basis,
So the
if we
next-
continue to do what we're doing at a yearly basis,
So yeah, the next figure, just to flip over, this is from, slightly different areas, but you'll see what I'm talking about here. This is from August 2023 to October 24, so technically not a year, but about 12 to 13 months, 14 months here. That shows a fill of 3,977 cubic yards for about 14 months, which equates to 3,200 yards per year of fill.
Okay.
right,
So flipping back to the remaining airspace, roughly 3,500 cubic yards, 24,000, by math, 6.5 years of remaining permitted airspace at the, make it clear, current filling rates that Sturbridge has ongoing at this moment.
okay.
Can you explain so 6.5 years of what?
Airspace.
Approved space that we can use? Is that with any technique, crushing or anything else?
At the current
Current-
rates.
What we're currently
What
doing.
we're currently doing, okay.
And it's maintained steady, so 2 years ago when we were here, it was, 3 years ago when we were here, it was 9 years.
Right.
The rates at the transfer station and going up are the same.
So that's where we're at.
Because we couldn't implement some of the other things, it's, from a cost perspective, it wasn't probably,
Right, so 9 years
Rational,
ago,
too.
if we crushed more, we probably would have extended it.
Compressed more.
Compressed
It's
more.
all, it's
Yeah,
about
sorry,
compression.
yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
But we didn't, so, okay.
well, and that would have had to do with the
New
landfill
machinery.
and actually at the recycle center where the trash gets thrown into, compressing that,
Correct.
putting that into the landfill and then
Compressed that again.
compacting
Again,
it
compacting it
even
again.
more.
Okay.
yeah. So we lost a few years, but based on the cost of equipment,
Yeah, I'm good.
That
Yeah,
is-
the years have been, the previous analysis that Jonathan mentioned to
Yeah.
where we are now, it's on the same track.
yeah.
So.
And can you explain a little bit about what happens when a landfill is completed?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. So back before you place any waste inside of a landfill, you design to the elevation, final elevation. Usually a pyramid. In this case, it's like a mound, right? So you I forget what the elevation is. I think it's might be 769. But so when the landfill starts to close, you come up to this. Just use the 769 elevation as an example. You're not allowed to go higher than that elevation, whether it's the elevation, the width or the height of it. You're not allowed to place waste outside of that permitted elevation. So,
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
But we have to do something, don't we?
Well, you need about
correct.
2
So
years.
Once you reach,
Yeah.
once as you're getting to, so say 6.5 years from now, right? You're not allowed to place waste anymore. Well, from that, prior to that end date, I guess, you would start the promise of the
2 years.
project of closure, right? So that includes, permitting. You would send drawings or, your design package to the state, DEP. They would approve the design drawings. They would also have to approve a closure, post-closure period, which for landfills, Massachusetts is 30 years, closure, post-closure, which includes monitoring the groundwater, monitoring of the leachate, monitoring of the cabs.
That's actually a federal law.
It's a federal, yeah, well, Massachusetts state federal law, and, mowing, right, any type of.
That could change.
Sometimes you do a survey to make sure there's no additional settlement. So when you usually you don't reach your waste limit and then you start a project, you usually kind of do it all at the same time or roughly at the same time.
You cap it? Is there a cap too then?
Correct. So at the landfill now, you can see what a closed cap would look like, a nice grassy fields. So you install, maybe not the same thing that was closed back then, but now they have new technologies that include like impermeable geomembranes and geotextiles along with, topsoil and seed.
Okay, so impermeable, so you're not adding more water to it.
Oh, no, you do not want to have more water because they just inherently create more.
Oh, you'll get more leachate then.
Yeah, so
And
you're
want
gonna
to
put an
make
umbrella over the whole thing.
Yeah, and then it's almost like a bag, a zip tie. You connect it to the existing baseliner, which is a membrane laying,
Okay.
and they weld it, they fusion weld it together. So it's-
Welded too. Wow, that
Yeah.
sounds,
It'll continue to make leachate for a while, but the hope is that once it gets to a certain point, you won't have as much leachate, and then it'll become a dry tomb. It's
But
like
you
what
will have expense every year.
Excuse me?
You
Sorry.
will still have expenses.
Correct. There is an expense every year to a closed landfill, which include, semi-annual
Monitoring,
ground monitoring.
yeah.
Okay.
It's 30 years
monitoring.
minimum.
So we need to budget that, but.
No, you'll have to monitor that landfill after it closes for the next 30 years. That's the law. That's a
No,
federal law.
what I'm saying, but that's an expense that
Yes,
you need to.
but the monitoring wells will continue as is, because that's when you're gonna have the most contaminants, is once it's at that point. The leachate will continue to produce leachate, but it'll be much, much less, but you will continue to produce leachate because everything's still decomposing.
Correct. Yep.
So as things decompose, you're gonna have more you'll have leachate, but it'll become much less leachate.
What you're seeing here on this graphic, and Fred will point it out, is the current active cell. And this is a smaller area than that first picture you saw. It's just the area on the bottom of the graph, in the
Right.
photograph. And the solid line outlines the area that needs to be closed upon completion.
And it's gonna be able to tie into the other closed cells, right?
Yeah,
When-
yeah, yes, correct.
You guys had the information from the past two cells that were closed? Do you have that
We
information?
have some of the information, some of the old design drawings.
Yeah.
That we'll utilize, and, we'll have to update them to standards like this.
Right.
Some of the design components of a 1988 cap are much different than a
Right.
2030 cap.
Yep.
So we'll have to implement those.
So the other thing is that you're gonna have to do is, so all the designing, budget-wise,
Budget-wise.
is going to have to come out of the capping account. That's going to pay for the designing,
Physically capping them.
yeah, and the whole permitting process and everything else. Because it's a permitting process, and I think by law, you have to give the state 2 years,
Is it 2 years?
minimum of 2 years.
I was just gonna ask you if you can back up, since we're guesstimating a 6.5 year, can you back up? Can you back up from that 6.5 year marker and give the board an idea of what we're talking about? Are we talking 18 months, 2 years, 3 years? Walk through the process of where we think we're gonna be full to where we start that process of design specs and permitting.
Sure. So, January 2025 now, right? So, 2031, right? So, the town will continue filling as is, right? We can review some of the projects we've outlined, proposed, as we've been talking about it, but continue filling as is. I say the first step, but the first step would be, getting a design package for the town to review. Anything we get in front of DEP sooner rather than later is better, right? So whether it's a 2-year, time frame or a 3-year time frame, the sooner we can get in front of the DEP, the better, because we all maybe have experience permitting landfills. There's less landfills in the state now, but they may want a closer look at this landfill. So first would be the design package on our review session, submitting to DEP. Usually it's like a 6-month review, 180-day review that could extend that to if they have questions or comments for the town.
Yeah.
In that time frame, right? We'd be working with Ken to procure a potentially earthwork contractor to produce this work. That can take any number of months to do that as well. you would need any type of stormwater permit, construction permit, groundwater permit, tapping permit, many permits to get this particular landfill closed. So, we'd start the process like almost this summer to start getting the design packages,
Wow.
proposals,
Really? That
design
quick?
packages.
Okay.
Because the better, as I said, the better to start now than later. You never know. We have filling rates from the past years. The filling rates may change, so you don't want to be caught with not being able to put waste into your landfill. We do subsequent annual surveys to hopefully support that, but
Things could change.
things could change, and let alone if you do not have enough waste. Sometimes landfills decide we don't want to put any more waste in. We want to, procure some fill material to make sure we can meet our design grades. That could take some time too. It's all about kind of what the town wants to do with the remaining airspace of the landfill. Whether that's post-closure use, which could mean, I've seen everything from golf courses to ball fields to solar panels to whatever, right? That could be a different design. So that you still have to meet the requirements of DEP, but also meet our clients' requirements if they want to do post-closure.
Yeah.
So that's that type of information EA would get, go to the design, any type of differences, we'd have to, take a little bit more time. So to answer your question, Ken, starting the process now, but, it's a good 2.5 years, ideally, knock on wood, for DEP approval, to go and actually, once you get the design documents approved, well then go up to bid, or procuring a bid, procuring an earthwork contractor at that time. So it's not an uncomplicated process, but it can get complicated with certain things.
I think our town administrator's here, and I think she has some questions too.
So if I could just, one of the things that I think we need to look.
Can I ask you to come up?
Oh,
Just
yeah,
to-
officially,
Just because,
let's make it official.
because we have microphones.
We're bringing a microphone.
Yeah, I'm
with
gonna
you.
steal your spot.
Thank
So
you.
Robin Grimm, Town Administrator. Thank you for letting me stick my head in here. I think the big picture I kind of want to look at or think about is, we know it's eventually going to close. We have an account to close it. We're looking next year at grading costs, we're looking at materials costs, we're looking at a whole host of operational costs, not to mention some personnel costs that we have associated with it. We know it's going to close. We know that it's going to take 2 to 3 years, if we're lucky, to close it. And so I think when we start looking at what this is costing us versus when we should start the closure process, I think we need to look at the cost analysis of that. Heather and I were just chatting about, what is the cost-benefit analysis? How much is this landfill costing us? And is it worth waiting another 2 to 3 years to start what we know is going to happen anyway, and risk the closure costs going up when our money's finite in that account? I mean, we could keep pouring money in through the revolving, but we basically have an account. The longer we wait, the more expensive all of this is going to become to do. So if we have to bring in some fill for the grade, we can do that at a cost now versus continuing to add to it, continuing to risk further contamination. Because again, I mean, we know we're within our DEP codes and regulations, but everything's getting far more stringent on our testing. We're worried about everything that's coming into the ground and coming out of the ground. So, I mean, my feeling is that maybe it is time, and again, I'm not speaking for my board, I have not put this in front of them as a policy decision, but I think that it has to start with your board to think about whether or not we should start making that move sooner.
You mean close earlier?
Start
than-
closing sooner. I mean, we know it's inevitable. The cost of closing is only going to go up, like everything else. And the question is, are we making enough to justify hanging on to it for a couple more years when we know we have to invest next year $125,000 right off the bat for grading and everything else? We may still have to do some of that. I'm not saying that to maintain for the 2 or 3 years that we start the closure. I'm not saying that we don't have to have some cost. There's still going to be some operational costs. But the reality is, we can run a transfer station. We can allow the public to have the same level of service. We just don't have to be in the trash business. We can transport it out and let somebody else be in the trash business. So I think we need to look at, what are we making? How many tags are we selling? What are we charging? Is enough coming in?
But you'll want to continue to do that even if we have even as a transfer station,
Absolutely.
you'll still need to charge.
Absolutely, it would offset the cost. But
Yeah.
the point is, we're certainly not making enough doing this to say, look, that extra 3 or 4 years, we're going to get so much profit
Yeah.
that it's worth keeping it going as long as we possibly can. My thing is, this is the inevitable. So
It is.
why are we going to wait 3 years to
Well,
start to
get
do
your
what we need to
experience.
do?
Well, yeah, this is something we talked about 3 years ago, was just that in this situation was opening it up for clean fill material and for excavated material and having a tipping fee and using the hole to generate revenue as well. At that time, the economy was different. We were in COVID. There was no construction. We were all in a different mindset. But now that other landfills during this maturity stage turn to a profit center
Right.
to offer
Contaminate soils and.
contaminated soils that meet the criteria that you establish to start the fine grading
Right.
in the last 3 to 7 years.
Let the public provide the fill effectively as a
Let
service.
the exactly,
Use that
yeah.
service for fill rather than just trash or whatever,
Oh,
but something
yeah.
we can
It's
use.
more for the shaping and the,
Right.
all of
To
that.
grade it
Right.
properly, yeah. Just my thoughts on, that I think
Oh,
some of the
yeah.
board needs
That's
to.
a legitimate
should
point.
Well, so
consider.
is there somebody that is a consultant and a planner to stage all this out for us and figure the cost benefit?
That's, yeah,
Our engineer,
Heather, or-
That would be Heather, and the
Oh,
engineers.
our-
yeah,
with them.
our engineers.
We have engineers,
No,
Doc.
but it's
That's what our
cost
engineers-
effectiveness and other sorts of things and DEP.
yeah, absolutely. Short of being a broker on the street, making arrangements for tipping and having excavating companies working on new home developments to bring soil to the site, offering a cost competitive, those are what brokers do.
Okay.
They advertise your facility, they vet the material. For the most part, sand and gravel is still valuable. Very few people are going to want to give away something of value.
You're gonna get stuff from Connecticut, contaminate soil, things like that.
I
that we
mean, you don't want to
calls.
get into necessarily that business of having that.
Right.
It depends what's in it, right,
Depends,
exactly.
yeah.
They
We
call
have
it
to be careful of our
contaminated,
own-
but-
Yeah, I mean, we have to be careful of our own
Yeah.
groundwater and
Absolutely.
runoff.
But you have a commodity, which is you have a facility with some room in it. We can engineer, Fred and our group can engineer the plans, back ourselves into this. Understand that a little bit of reshaping needs to be done here where the oranges are. We've gone over in our shape configuration. It means readdressing those, cutting those areas as we come to the final grade. But yeah, this is all, it's been happening.
So what I mean is just like a roadmap.
Yeah,
Where
a
should we
timeline.
be a year from now? And going to be going with the idea that we're closing in 3 years or something.
Yep.
How do we get to that? We have to get started now then if we're going to close in 3 years.
Absolutely, and yeah.
We need our permits
That's what
in.
you said, you gotta start.
Well, let's go. We need to, this is why this conversation's happening, because we know we have 6.5 to 7 years in that range. And we need to have a conversation of, do we start in a year? Do we start in 2? Do we have a commission or a committee that gets together and goes, are we doing this or not doing this? Because this is bigger than this board, and it's bigger than that board, so.
Well, and I think the question for me becomes, as we pull the budget together, let's say for next year, how much do we want to spend
Yeah.
on continuing while at this, I mean, some of it we're going to still have to spend, but how much do I want to invest? Well, I know we're entering into a closure process. I don't want to invest $150,000 into continual operational upgrades that I might not need to invest if I know that I'm moving toward a
Yeah,
closure.
closure.
Because there may be different operational things that have to be done, different gradings, different, whatever it might be. Certainly not my bailiwick. But what I'm looking at is requested is if we're chugging along, we're not even talking about closure, is one level of investment. But it might be I need to put 30,000 in next year's budget versus 100,000 for maintaining operations until we close for 3 years versus maintaining for another 7, where now I have to stay at a certain level of performance.
And I would caution you, COVID changed the calculations throughout the United States. The directions that trash moved changed. They went back to the home locations, not the municipal locations. County landfills and town landfills like yourselves, the calculations rapidly changed for the worse because more trash was being sent to the transfer stations as individuals stayed at home.
true.
Calculations went up 25%, which if we're not mindful of that and we're aiming out, we could get,
caught.
exactly.
As more people work from, and the work from home, it may change back a bit,
Yep.
but private corporations that gave up buildings
Space, yeah.
in downtown spaces are not gonna go find that money to bring them back.
Just look at the state workers, they still work
It's
from
still,
home.
yeah, 4 days a week at home, so I mean, their resources are much different. So I mean, I think that is something.
Also, the cost, I think, as the trash haulers have increased their costs, and of course, moving it on to people that have trash at their house, a lot of people are actually, I've been told by other people that, hey, I used to have so-and-so, now I use the recycle center. So there's a lot of that going on because it's so much cheaper. The other thing would be to look into if the town transfer station is now going to have so-and-so pick up stuff and move it to Wheelabrator or wherever else it's going, what that cost is gonna be, because we're gonna have to calculate that cost no matter what you're gonna do,
No
unless
matter
you
what you
just.
do.
Right, right, and that's a fee that you're gonna basically have to calculate for what you charge the taxpayer. So what we wanna make sure is that the taxpayer gets the same level of service. Really, right now, the only difference, if we did transfer versus the landfill, is what happens to their trash after they leave it. Frankly.
Right.
Right, they don't know the difference. I don't care what you do with my trash.
They don't
once I
know
bring
where
it
it's
to you.
going. Yeah, they
Right,
don't-
I
they
could
don't
care
know.
less where you put it. But the cost, now, again, certainly, we're not gonna close the landfill and save dollar for dollar, every budget dollar, because we're not going to charge necessarily, and that's gonna, again, be more of a larger decision than where I sit. But I don't think the will would be to charge enough to make up for the whole cost of transferring that trash. There's still going to be trash costs, but there would be fees. You know, right now, we're probably not charging anywhere near covering the cost of that operation.
Subsidizing it,
We're,
yeah.
barely
are now,
subsidizing
yeah.
it. We don't know who really has tags. We don't really have a great handle on this, how often they come. We're not charging by necessarily the delivery. I mean, there's a lot of ways that we could very fairly have fees, user fees, not taxes. So, you know, that's where it's more of a philosophical discussion. Do you maintain a budget line item for the cost of the transfer station, or do you use it as a fee per use kind of a basis where you're not taxing, you're charging, which are two, I
Yeah.
consider them two very different things.
Fee for service type
Fee
of
for service
business.
versus a
Yeah.
part of our 2.5, Prop 2.5 budget tax situation for everybody. Because if I'm paying for my trash to be removed from my house, I'm not gonna be happy if I have an added tax. But right now, the landfill is costing
Yeah.
all taxpayers. And I think that we can reduce off the general budget with a closure and a fee for service kind of situation. It's more equitable, frankly, for the taxpayer. I think it's more fair.
And that would be to close sooner rather than later.
So sooner, it's inevitable.
Yeah, we're gonna
Why
get
not
to it.
start the process? Why not start the process? The other thing I would say, why not start the process? Regulations are always only going to get more and more stringent. I defer to you guys on the degree of how, you said it, 1988 capping was very different from 2030 capping.
Retroactive though.
I'm
even
kind of
when they
hoping
change-
the 27
Yeah.
capping
Stuff.
might be, yeah. So I'm very concerned that the longer we wait, the capping regulations and the DEP regulations
Could change.
could become even more challenging for us to meet, or what we can put into the landfill. I mean, I cannot even begin to envision environmentally what the future might hold on those things. And I'm not trying to be melodramatic. I don't think 10 years ago we could have envisioned how DEP regulations, we didn't hear the word PFAS 15 years ago. You know, we were still drinking out of those same plastic water bottles, but nobody seemed to care. Now we care. So I think we need to be cognizant of the fact that the longer we wait, the more expensive it may be, not just because of the cost for service, but because our environmental restrictions might be
More restrictive.
much more stringent.
I appreciate it, but I don't believe that's the case, because I believe that we already own the issues. All of the restrictions that they've given us over the years have only reduced what goes in there and what's allowed. It's actually, this was slated to close, I believe it was 2012 or 2015 was what they thought it was going to be.
Yep.
And we've gained airspace on that. We had this conversation with engineers just recently. The waste bands that have come through from Massachusetts is what's given us our space.
Yeah.
We haven't changed culturally. We haven't changed how we compact, how much we do, what our compaction rates are at our trash compactor.
I'm thinking
So
more on the
DEP
process, though, the capping process, not what we're taking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
and I don't know that you're right.
I don't think the capping process.
And I doubt it's
because-
going to change because there's
Yeah.
5 left in the state.
Yeah.
That's true, too.
So-
There aren't many of us left.
Yeah, so
Well,
that's,
it's not only that, but they don't like to make more work for themselves, honestly, and they pretty much mirror.
Everything else
No,
is
they don't.
closed.
They're lazy as far as like, oh, we want to change a regulation because that'll take 2 years anyway. for them to
Yeah.
ever get that
So-
done. By then, we'll already be in the process. But they pretty much mirror, they absolutely mirror all the federal regulations. And I can't see in the next 4 years, under the EPA,
No, I don't
that
think
they're
it
gonna
works
be
now.
changing any of those kind of regulations anytime soon.
I just worry because we're more stringent, the EPA's catching up to Massachusetts on the
Oh, yeah.
PFAS.
100%.
I expected we're gonna see some other things that we already
Yeah,
own.
more restricted. I'm not as concerned
Yeah.
about the EPA. I agree with you.
Yeah.
The EPA is less of a concern for me than
But
DEP.
well, as far as, that's gonna be your wells, and if it's in the groundwater, it's in the groundwater, and it's not gonna change anything that's going into
Yeah.
that landfill now. At this point, it's there.
I just, like I said,
And
I
it's
just know
probably
about capping requirements, but like you said, there are only 5 left.
There's only 5, yeah,
Yeah.
why
Yeah,
would change them now?
None left in the state, and they're kind of lazy.
To Fred's point, this is also the time to be thinking about what we're going to do with a finished cap landfill and how you want it to be engineered. Certain facilities out west where land is at a premium value capped landfills, whether it be for an emergency management radio tower, whether it be for radio-controlled airplanes, this one,
They use down there.
which they
Yeah,
use
that's what
across.
he's saying.
So these are all things that are still valued by individuals, and they're perfect for a closed landfill. Energy generation and things like that, you want to factor those in now if they need a foundation, if the cap is going to support, as Fred and I have another project,
Need it for,
solar
solar
panels.
panels. Well, the solar panel thing, I think, was looked at. This is before you, Robin, like way before you. The problem is that they don't have the generation, right? You know, yeah.
We don't have three-phase, yeah.
Yeah, so they're like,
Yep.
they don't have any
So
interest in doing
cellular
it.
towers, emergency management, communications, regional emergency management.
That could be a
folks.
possibility.
Which we're in fact involved with a study on regionalization for our
So if you give them
communications.
that.
That'd be an interesting place.
720,
Interesting site.
Point.
they all work off of elevations, so if you say we have a 767-foot promontory, well, just that's our ground elevation,
Yep.
and they add 180 feet to that,
Yeah,
that's how you start talking on their wavelength.
yeah. So that would be an
So I think there are
interesting thing.
broad, again, policy decisions that have to be looked at, but I think for us, what I want to put on the table is a consideration of this timeline. I mean, my belief is sooner rather than later is more logical. I just feel like I'm pouring money at something that we're going to close.
Yeah.
So why would we do that?
Is that a town decision? That's for the town
I
to
have not
decide.
put, yeah, and I think it's collectively for.
It's not just our
partially
decision, it's
for
the
you
town.
all, it's going to be the Board of Selectmen, and again, I haven't even put this in front of them because I wanted to hear this
Okay.
first. But I wanted to at least put on your radar.
Consideration.
I mean, I think
Yeah.
if you all move that direction, then I would simply present that to the Board of Selectmen from the Board of Health. And then from our end, it's really a budgetary thing more on the Board of Selectmen side, budgetary operations, things like that, policy on how we're going to charge, how are the fees going to be? All of those things are going to have to be, I think, sort of jointly discussed between the two boards. I think it really is input from both sides of the house. I mean, you look at it from the standpoint of the health and
Environment.
well-being,
Yeah,
the
the environment,
environmental, the
yeah,
fact that we're going
yeah.
to cap this anyway, it's only going to last for so long. I'm saying to you that from a budgetary standpoint, I just can't see pouring money for another 3 years and then 4 years and then start closing it. If we know we're going to close anyway, as long as we know and we can provide that same level of service to the public.
And the other question would be is, are we gonna have, so this is like beyond that, so now we'll be a transfer station. Is there capacity to go somewhere else? Like I'm saying, like, and the cost of these like running a transfer station now.
Yeah, it's something we looked at
versus-
3 years ago. It was the optimization on the ground at the transfer station. It was something that I think, Dr. K, you brought up. I remember that, was you saying about pedestrian access and things like that.
Yes. Well, that's sort of an overall picture of what we're doing there. We have,
Yeah.
what is it, a 40-year-old
Sure.
landfill and recycle center.
center, yeah.
And I'd like to just have the floor for a minute or two, because I do think there are larger issues. Should we just re-examine, re-look at that whole process if we're going to a transfer station, to do it a modern way, and we might have to invest some money to do that. So I think the town really should look at, I don't think what we have is good for, what we have down there now that I go to each week or two is just not good for another 40 years,
Yep.
or even 10 years.
Mo-
That should
All,
be,
all townships are doing that as waste bans go in place as these things come in and go, you might find now that you have a off-site contractor taking your waste off-site and it's not getting toted up to the top anymore, you might have a little bit more breathing room as you look to modernize that flow. They're also going to want to prioritize their own access so they can come in and out of the transfer station themselves. They're going to have a spot at the table to talk about how do we want to come and go. We don't want to be burdened as contractors coming onto town property, not town DPW directors. We want to have a safe flow. So these are all.
You're talking about the person that would be picking it up.
Yeah, they would have a say saying, this place is crazy on Tuesdays. I would
Oh,
prefer
they
to
would
come.
never-
Yeah.
So I would envision it this way.
Yeah.
So we have a contractor that now picks it up and takes it to our landfill.
Right.
Every week, right?
Right.
I would assume they would be doing it the same way they did it now.
Yeah.
Right? So they would be coming on a Wednesday or on a Thursday.
Yeah.
Or not on a Thursday, on a Wednesday or a Friday, and picking it up and taking it wherever it goes.
Right.
Now, the cost of that, that's when you want to start looking at the contracts and all that kind of stuff,
That's when you
because
bid
then,
out that service and.
Yeah, we gotta bid it
Yeah,
out.
that would be a bid service.
yeah, and then you want to make sure like how they increase it on.
Oh, absolutely. You
Yeah.
do long-term. That's like no different than if you're in a community that does
Yeah.
public trash removal.
Yep.
And
Because
you
they-
bid out waste management.
Because those
or-
people,
yeah. Those are
a
long-term
lot
contracts.
of, a lot of those people that did those, Robin, I know that went with some particular companies. If they weren't doing certain recycling at a certain rate, or they didn't produce enough recycling, say, they actually start charging the town more money. That was for,
Yeah, so the
per
diversion
pickup.
rates were big on that for a while on the recycling.
They were actually
and-
being charged for the recycling. They actually weren't making any money on recycling.
Yep.
They were being charged for recycling.
Yeah, the whole thing
So-
flipped from the early 2000s when recycling was so beneficial and you got literally bonus money for diversion. You know, we would run around literally, I worked in a town, we hired a part-time person to
Yeah.
go look in people's trash bins
Yeah.
and make sure they were diverting enough. And it was beneficial because we financially benefited and the environment benefited, you know, like
Yep.
win-win
Well,
for
I went
everybody.
to China.
But that it changed.
It changed.
Then it changed, and it
Trash,
went
they
through,
don't want your
yeah.
trash,
And
yeah.
so, but I mean, all I ask at this point is because it's a preliminary discussion, I'm not in a position to look at what the numbers are, I'm not we need a much longer range discussion on that, but I do think that, you know, and again, I'm gonna package this back up for my board and pretty much tell them what my position was here. But again, it is not, they have not voted or taken any position, I just want to be clear, it's not their vote. But I will package this for them and point out to them that my suggestion is that if we're looking at closing in 7 years, why wouldn't we start the process now at this cost, at a more known cost with the regulations, and then look at, that gives us 3 years to figure out how we're going to provide this service. We're going to eventually have to provide this service. It's either going to be in 3 years or in 7 years for the public. So.
Can I get the conversation back to this? Because this is a great place to be, because we do need to start talking. That's why I wanted this, is so everybody knew what we had, how much time we really, because it's not 6 years to mess around. We only have about 3 years to kind of mess around before we got to start closure. And if we're going to start earlier, cool. But there are 2 other projects associated with this coming this year that we kind of have to deal with. Both of them are semi-regulatory. So
Can you just continue on with the presentation? Sorry.
start with the grading portion.
Yeah, so this is, so just to reiterate, this is from the October 24 survey to the permitted grades from 1980, right?
Yep.
So the areas in red, orange, and green here, and then red, orange, and yellow and green up here are outside the elevations of permitted airspace. So this is obviously the southern side of the landfill near the clean stormwater basin. This is near the access road up here. So, you know, some of the grading projects we've, talked to Ken about is really getting this southern portion of the landfill kind of graded and up to the permitted grades. This is what, the fill grades over here. I think
Is that the cliff right there?
Yes.
I call it the cliff.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
this is Chesla's property, and this
Yeah.
part is the south here. So, we're coming up with costs, coming up with like a plan to grade this southern area with getting it to the permitted grades, along with topsoil.
This is to meet out the regulation, correct?
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
We're not meeting the regulation.
Currently, this chunk here is not.
Yeah,
we can be fined for
And
that.
this chunk up here is
Yes.
not meeting the regulation. currently not meeting the regulations, correct? And we're trying to come up with a plan and a project to grade the southern area to say, quote unquote, they call it, put it to bed.
So we need to have a plan, we need to show DEP that we have a plan to correct.
Yes, yeah, I mean, not just DEP, but, the town operations down here, right? This class, but, we had some issues back here with, grades, with,
Water.
trash and water, and the project we're proposing is to get this area to final grade and seed it, turn it into, install an intermediate cover, which can shed clean stormwater off.
Right.
That's clean into the southern basin here.
By
and
seeding
minimize-
it, and then it's no longer leachate.
Correct.
Yeah,
And minimizing the leachate generation as well.
correct.
So
That's to be done this year.
that is the
That,
plan.
yes.
As well as this northern area here, that is above
Above
permitted
two.
validation as well. So that's the grading project that we're working with the town on. The second project is associated with the groundwater quality in the monitoring wells. So going back to this one here, in the most recent winter sampling event, wells here, NW4A, and then NW7A, which is not on this map, which is in the wetland
Is
area
that in
right
the
here.
water?
Correct.
Yeah,
Um,
that needs to be decommissioned, right?
Correct. So MW4A here is, like, from me to you, from MW4, we found some exceedances of arsenic and another VOC contaminant, tetrahydrofuran, which we've talked with DEP about, but the plan is to abandon this well appropriately here, and then the damaged well that was actually
The
struck by a
wetlands.
tree and landed on the PVC and just totally demolished it, and it's unsampleable as well. So,
It's in wetlands anyway, so it's already in wetlands, correct?
that well is in wetlands, yeah, so we'd be abandoning that well, moving it slightly south to it's like a level, so it's not in the water anymore and treacherous to get to, and then reinstalling that location.
The one that came out with the arsenic and the tetra. other
Yep,
stuff.
hydrofuran, yep.
Yeah. Do we have the report on the past reports on that particular well? Do you have that
We
information?
don't, we have the most,
Do we have a-
when EA took over, we have that data that we've
Okay.
presented to DEP, and my colleague and I have had a discussion with DEP, and they're on board, we're submitting a corrective action report to totally abandon this well. There's no record at DEP of this well existing.
Okay.
We're not really sure why it's there, we're not really sure how it's constructed, we don't have any.
DEP doesn't even have a record of that well.
Correct. So,
There's two wells that have the same name,
So one,
They're right next to each other.
if I remember, this is going back 1,000 years ago, one of them should have been decommissioned, and I don't know if it was ever not decommissioned.
And then
Was
you did the other
was it like not found? Was it buried
So-
somewhere?
so
And it
I've
was,
heard rumors about why that's there, and what I've heard is that number 4 was not sampleable, didn't have water, so they
yes,
decided to
there was one
re-drill
well
it.
that we had to
And
re-drill a well for.
That's not the case that we have found. The
No.
EA's come in the last year, that's not been the case, we've been able to sample it, and there's no exceedances.
No, but no, this would have been back in 2008. There
Oh.
was a well that did not, if there's another well right next to that well, huh?
That might have been the one up at the top.
Oh, so there's 2 wells right here too, MW1 and R, one of them is
Oh, that
completely
was
destroyed,
that
and
cell.
then
Yeah,
they
you're
never
right.
decommissioned this,
It
and
would
then
have been
there's
that
another
cell,
one here.
yeah, it would have been that cell, yeah.
So just
But that one could have been a simple, probably
Yeah.
a similar situation,
Correct.
and that cell was before my time.
So, just as an example.
So you have to decommission these two.
You have to decommission a well, and then you basically drill a well as close as you can to that same area, just so that you could be sampling the same water, the same groundwater.
That's what we're gonna do up here to the north, to the west here, they're just gonna decommission it.
Yeah.
Abandoning it totally. We're not sampling it anymore. The well right next to it, there's no exceedances to them, Massachusetts
That's wild.
regulations. And the 2 wells to the west here, 6 and 9, I believe, same results, no issues. So
Okay.
DEP was on board with our, Massachusetts licensed well driller coming on site and decommissioning.
Interesting, okay.
So that project, well, corrective action reports, DEP has to happen this spring or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
spring, summer timeframe.
We're doing this quarterly.
We do semi-annual sampling. So the next
Okay.
sampling event will be in the spring, trying to coordinate around this drilling event. But it's pretty,
Twice a year, yeah.
twice a year. So
'Cause of
those are
this-
the 2 projects we are, working with the Board of Health on to basically get back into compliance. Well, the grading is to get back into compliance. The well issue is to, I guess get back to compliance too.
Okay, Ken, do you want to?
You got anything else?
Oh, no, as far as the wells go, this is rectifying what appears to be some old stuff that should have been, there was housekeeping that was never done when the well was drilled.
Yeah, no.
And then we found, like I said, we finally found the other one was crushed. So,
They know about that one in the wetlands?
Yeah,
Did
about the
DEP know
wetland.
about the
He knows
wetlands?
about the one wetland.
Yep.
We shared pictures of them with him, and they are okay with our plan of moving it slightly south. And that it'd be very difficult to drill a well. That just so happened we found it because of the drought this fall.
Right,
So
yeah.
in the past, we've been sampling it.
Well, if there's a beaver area over there, it was probably not in wetlands at some point.
point it wasn't in West.
Yeah, right. Because nobody would be drilling a well in the wetlands.
Yeah.
No. I bet you there's a beaver thing there.
Town mascot did that, yes.
Yeah.
Our unofficial town
We have a lot
mascot.
of, we have a lot of them.
Yes, it should be the mascot.
So,
Yeah.
okay.
So
So,
those are the two projects.
those are two projects, and the grading project is a regulatory project and it's a good neighbor project, so it takes care of our neighbor's complaint. And hopefully by grading, seeding, and covering that side, we're going to reduce any sort of other trash issues that we have that we're regularly dealing with on that side. There's multiple issues with the grading project that we're hoping to
do you
correct.
want to add anything or to any of this? I mean, you're welcome to. I don't want to, I mean, you guys are up there doing the work.
So I can say that the grading project is beneficial to the operations of the landfill too, and our burying of trash, because it gets very difficult, and we're limited in what we have. We're only going down there with a loader. We
Yeah.
don't have a dozer. We're only operating down there once a week. It becomes very limited in what we can do in that type of time frame and with the materials and the equipment we have. So that is part of the reason to hire a contractor, establish a grading plan, get it back into some type of compliance where those slopes are not an issue anymore, close that area, have a flatter surface to work from, and build up again, if that's where you're going,
Yeah.
right? If that's the path that's going to be traveled down eventually. Now, that it does depend, like the town administrator is saying, if the plan is going to change and we're going to move towards closure, do we have to do that as quickly? Maybe not, because maybe we don't have to bury as long. We have to get in compliance. We have to figure out
Have to
at a
do that.
minimum where we're going with that.
Mm-hmm.
So there is some conversations, because obviously spending 125, and if that needs to go to, if we can limit that to a smaller area, maybe we do that. I don't know. And maybe it's not 125. You might have a better sense than I do, but a lot of projects, everything seems to cost $100,000.
No, you're right. You're in the right ballpark.
You do that?
I do
You're right in
this.
the right ballpark.
Oh, it's a $100,000 project. That's $1 million project.
But we don't want to tell people how much money.
No, and I can add to this, and it is on that side, but without having a commission or a committee or some other place to go, if we're going to do this project, because this will be the last time we grade again until we're getting close to closure. So,
Yeah,
personal
this
opinion,
would
if we
hold-
set a grading project and do it, then we're done. DPW is off the hook and doesn't work into any of those crazy little
Yeah, you don't want
bad
us
grade
going
areas.
down
Yeah,
those slopes with our equipment we have.
No.
no. And that will actually close up the south side of landfill for us for a while and let us operate all on one tier and make it safer for DPW and easy to access what we have until we choose on what we're doing, whether we're bringing in stuff and filling, whether DPW is regular trash compacting for the next 5 years.
Probably look at the money that we have right now when you talk to Barbara tomorrow about the
We don't have any money for this.
the recycle center money, I mean, the revolving budget. I know, but we have money in the capping fund. And if we're gonna start moving to saying, we're now in that phase of going into capping, and you've gotta do this for a regulatory reason, and it's 125,000, why can't you start saying that now we wanna
And if it,
tap into that?
maybe if it gets used to those preliminary grades to final grade, now that is done.
That's what I'm saying.
Well,
If it
yeah.
can come off the cost of capping, I'm comfortable with that. What I don't want
Yeah,
to do is
it's-
through the capping budget.
I got you,
Yeah,
but.
'cause we don't know.
If we would have to do that anyway, then I think that
Well,
might be a
that's-
good option, but
Well, it's either that or it comes out of your free cash,
but it's
so.
saving us money somewhere else, is my compliant.
No, but you have to be, we have to be in compliance.
Right, but is it also gonna save, I mean, if it shouldn't come out of the capping fund
Right,
unless I
unless-
can justify
yeah.
that that's one less step later.
That we have
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
Because I
I
think
have to be careful how we use
Yeah.
it. all.
what you're talking about here is about 8.5, 10.5% of the site needs to achieve final cap elevation, which the background lines that you see there are how the cap should look.
Right.
A flat top,
It's a nice 3-to-1 slope on the outside.
Right, you want
So-
a 3-to-1.
everything that you're seeing green, yellow, and orange needs to be graded to final cap. That
Should be for,
might
okay.
be an argument to say, that is
Then I
final,
can justify.
achieving.
Then that
If I'm
is
gonna have
part
to
of the-
Spend that, at
Right.
least spend it now, spend it
Right.
later. So,
And it's gonna help in the long,
Right. I
us
just-
get to the final cap elevations.
but when
We're
an
just,
auditor asks,
yes,
Yeah,
no,
that's
it's,
a legitimate question.
it might be just how we word the,
yeah.
Yeah,
it's all in how we word it.
It is part of, it's going to be part of your
Yes.
final,
Correct. We
That
would,
much
we
less
would,
I'm
we would
spending
have a
in the
contractor
actual
grade
portfolio.
to the final waste grades, because there's a waste grade, then there's like a membrane grade, then there's a final grade,
Yeah.
right, for the topsoil.
that you have to
So they would
kind
grade
of
the
compensate
waste,
for.
their final waste grades, and then install topsoil and seed. Should, not only are you saving money on leachate generation, right, you have.
Because you're gonna seed it, you're gonna start doing the seeding process now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Of those areas, once you start doing the
Once the project
grading.
would be completed, that's when you install the topsoil and seed.
Right.
And we talked about this before, but that's why we call it between the cut, the fill, and the net fill, 118 cubic yards of the haunches of the slope just need to be cut down, 118 cubic yards, not a tremendous amount. Then that
Has to
leaves
be
you,
cut down.
to be
So it's
regraded.
like this,
Oh, I got you,
We
and
need
it
to
needs
go
to
like
go like,
this.
yeah.
that makes sense?
Yeah.
I talk with my hands,
But
that's why, it's
that
like,
118
it's-
cubic
yeah.
yards
it's the cliff. It
occupies,
should be on a
It is the
cliff.
cliff.
yeah, that 118 cubic yards does occupy a larger area when
Other
it's
than it should.
cut, exactly, yep.
Okay.
So before we go, are we about done with details? 'Cause I want to make a statement when we're ready, because we have our town leadership here, and we seem to be, I think there's a lot of details, okay. And what we're talking about here is household disposable material. And we're talking downstream from the household. And I wonder if we're at a tipping point for the town where we could think more upstream, which is how did all that disposable material get in the house? And we're back to reduce, recycle, reuse.
We were always still
MSW,
there.
yeah,
But that-
until,
I mean, I think
there's no zero
What
waste.
the town,
Yeah.
this might be a time for the town, because we're really talking garbage, and begin to think, do we want to be more active about reduced reuse? And green, going green or something like that, as a town, as we move forward, which might reduce costs long-term as well. So I don't think we should just focus on downstream from trash, rubbish, and so forth, but look upstream as well, in a preventive, how do we prevent
Well, I think the state has
excessive
actually,
garbage and trash and rubbish?
Doc, I think the state has a lot of the waste bans in place, and I've said this for 15 years. The state doesn't do a great job of actually, this is really not our conversation, it's really at the state level, we need to have the conversation.
Well-
They don't do a good job of all the stuff that we actually produce at our recycle center. It doesn't, where does that go from there? And I can tell you, it doesn't get made, I used to try to go out and source to find, our cardboard boxes, I found a place in Worcester that would recreate and make new boxes. They went out of business. They don't invest in money for cradle to grave, okay? That's what you're talking about, a cradle to grave. Where does this go once you throw it
No, I'm
away,
talking
once you
about,
recycle it? Well, that's how you get to zero waste. That's
Yeah,
what you're
going to
talking
zero
about.
waste, preventing, excessive trash.
That should be.
recyclable
Well,
materials.
that is probably a conversation at the
Wait.
state level, and unfortunately, they should invest in companies that want our trash, that can make it into something else, and they don't do that.
Let's not
So-
get way off what
Well,
we're
Yeah,
doing.
I'm telling
No, I'm
you,
talking
he
about-
wanted to make a statement, and I'm just actually
Yeah, I
reiterating that
understand.
statement.
Well, let's just get this part.
Let's-
Well, I think we've got to make
No, we need to talk about
Guys
what's
are
the next
engineers.
step
That-
here.
That's basically that's more of a political thing.
Well,
It's not really something that I think that we could really,
Societal issue.
it is a society issue, so we could
Yeah.
take that up at the State House, because they're the
Well,
ones
it
that actually
begins
make
with
those
each
decisions.
society, and
What
local
do we
societies.
want to do for
I
the
think
next
right
step
now,
now?
I think-
I think what you've
I think-
shown us today,
I would actually like to say that I think that, talk to the selectmen, and I think that maybe there should be a committee formed outside of just us and outside of just the selectmen. Bring in people that actually have some other knowledge, so that it's not just on our desk and it's not just on your desk, that there could be people that actually can look at this and go out and make some of the phone calls to where the trash haulers and things like that. There has been mention in the past at the finance committee where they're like, why don't we have all the town have our trash picked up and not even have a recycle center? I mean,
That was
these were
another
things,
study, yeah.
those were things that people had brought up saying, hey,
Municipal service.
yeah,
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 that's been
as,
brought up.
as having a contractor come in and pick up everyone's trash. You no longer have your own choice of who your trash collector is. Have a contractor do that and close the recycle center completely.
Maybe transfer.
Those were ideas that have been thrown out there. But I don't think our board nor your board has the time to just focus on doing that. But I'd be happy, like, if somebody of our board or members of our staff want to be part of some kind of committee. But I think that would be the thing, is just like when they opened up the recycle center and the landfill, it was made up of the recycling committee back in 70,
Yeah.
whatever it was.
47 years ago.
Well, it was probably when the other side of the landfill was open with Southbridge, and that was the Southbridge Sturbridge landfill on the other side, which they never actually gave any money to. But I think that would be the most appropriate way to kind of take this in giant bites, because right now we're just taking it all
What
in
other
like.
groups are you talking about, Bud? I mean, we'd have to have finance in it, right?
No, I'm talking about somebody that can go out and do the legwork of finding, call up Casella, find out what it would cost. But
Yeah, but look.
I want to say that I think you really want a high level coming from your consultants, because
That's right.
you can't just trust your residents to go and make all the phone calls and do all of that and
I
have
agree.
accurate
Yeah.
information.
Right.
On a concept picture of what you want to do, but somebody who has background in it and can say, you know, we've worked in this many communities and these other communities are paying this much to dispose of their trash. And yes, we can call Casella and find out what their current tipping fees are, but here's the other tipping fees. You know, here's other people's tipping fees. But you don't want just somebody misconstruing what it is. Oh, you mean your home trash, or you want to have, they want to know where it's coming
Heather,
from.
we also have we also have access to a DEP person that
Right,
is
would know all that.
consultant-ish type person that we've utilized when
But
we
I think
started
on
our
a big
pay as you throw.
concept, like you were saying, do you want to move away from
Well, that's it. It's
a
it's
transfer
it's a
station? Do you want to
completely
close
other-
early? Do you want to take another trash to offset some of these costs? Do you want to, not other trash, but other materials that need to be disposed of? You know, what do you want to do? What do you see for a long-term approach? Maybe having a representative from the selectmen, a representative from Board of Health, Ken, myself, other people that know what
I
the
agree,
other costs
but
are,
right.
just on a general basis, but before you go,
Too
that
far
is a
out.
bigger society, you know, and question too, but we know that this has a very short life point.
I think that's point number one. That has to be
And
settled.
there are costs that are
Yeah,
incurring
we'll figure out
that
the cost
we
on
are always going to, that we are currently, that are always going to be there and that won't be there once we close it. Like, there's no my labor going down there. There's no loader labor
Right.
going down there. There's no recycled glass having to be mixed. There's no materials being mixed, bringing in. You're going to reduce your landfill leachate, so we can say what's going to go up and down, but we also don't really know how much trash do we put in there a year?
About 35.
3,500.
Includes,
It's
that
about-
includes trash and daily cover material.
Right. 3,500 cubic feet of, well, so it's even including daily cover, so
Oh,
it's
what
less.
we've been doing though for a long time though.
But,
Yeah.
you know, we know it's one roll-off a week.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's another, yeah.
So how much does it cost to haul one roll-off a week?
That's it.
to wherever.
Is that less, is that cheaper than having two people labor, by the time that John Booth and, my labor are down there, probably a week, picking up trash, because you also have that labor, worrying about those, is that cheaper to do right now versus what we pay in labor and materials?
Right.
That's really what we want to know. That's the first
That's the
question to
first step.
answer.
Yeah.
And that really shouldn't be that hard.
Right.
I think if you knew that, that can guide the conversation. I don't think anybody's ever put those two things side by side.
We know that, you and I know that answer. The difference in that is we don't have regardless of what that comes out to, we don't have a fixed action for this year, next year, 3 years. So we're still a 3-year conversation.
Right, but I think it makes the
So,
three-year
yeah.
conversation a lot easier
Yes.
if people knew
Yep.
costing us, I
X
think,
amount of dollars to
Right.
run it.
right, versus,
Run it versus monitor it, because we're gonna have to monitor it.
Right.
Is
So-
one thing.
versus what it
Running
costs to
we're
dispose of
running
your
it
trash
and
outside.
disposing it outside.
So instead of spending for an extra 3 to 4 years,
Yeah.
operating costs that you could be saving money on
Yeah,
the far 3 years. So basically, saving 3 to 4 years of operating costs by closing 3 to 4 years.
or if it means that one day a week we take material from outside to meet our cap while we're still operating, but short
that
in
would
that
cause
time.
us, we would have to actually get a modification to our permit.
So that,
That, you're talking about doing a major modification to.
Not outside trash, but materials, like they were talking about.
Oh, the fill,
Fill.
yeah.
But we'd have to say that we're
Not trash.
interested in doing that, not trash.
Yes.
ultimately,
No,
that
yeah.
saves us if we can use that type of fill.
Correct.
It saves us on the other.
Instead of buying, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you already did that by taking the recycled glass. You've already saved
Right,
yourself
started
money,
it,
right,
yeah.
a
right?
lot, a
So
lot.
there
Yeah,
could
that
be other
worked.
products like that.
There are other products that are, and I don't want to use that contaminated word and skip away from that. But we're gonna go.
Impacted.
We have impacted or not virgin soils that are able to be used that aren't falling into. There's 5 categories or whatever they
street
are
sweeping
of
and so forth.
distressed soil.
Distressed.
So there's a variety of things that won't necessarily negative impact us on our monitoring long range, because once you say that contaminated word, people are going to be up in arms, and we don't want to take somebody else's stuff and put it on our ground. So yes, there's a long conversation, and there's a lot of different opportunities. And if we have a 3 or 4 year window to work with, that's something that can be, hey, if this project opens up here in southern New England, we have a place to broker it and could benefit
And
from that.
there are a lot of other places
Yeah.
like down there. that-
Yep.
Any work that they do on the highways, you can always probably get that oil. Boston is another place.
You don't want Boston style.
No, but
Always trying to
street
sell it to
sweeping,
us.
street sweeping
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
So do you have any other questions for?
I don't have
Fred or
any more.
Jonathan
I
at this point
appreciate
with
you
this
guys coming
presentation?
Got
in.
right to the point of where we are.
Yeah.
I appreciate you
No
guys
problem.
coming in for that.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right.
Jump to the end of
Does
the
anybody,
meeting.
I don't have anything else to do with
Anything we need to do to fix these areas right now?
But
Do we
that's
need
the
funding?
All
program.
right, so right now we have 2 articles, and I've got to talk to Barbara tomorrow, and I'll probably be talking with you some more on this. But there's 2 different warrants that we got to get on for projects that are coming up for
We're
those.
proposing to do down there.
So, town meeting,
Yeah.
when is this
Yes.
for approval at that point? That's
Yes.
soon
For this
enough?
town.
Yep, both special and the regular town meeting. Yep. Special.
Wells, this special
So that's,
town.
Wells will be in the special, and the other one will be in the town meeting.
Yeah,
But just
that
what,
would be-
how to be funded and where to be funded and what to do with them, those are
I think
conversations.
it's a question of the grading, if.
Yeah, if we can switch the money.
If it's justifiably off the cost down the road.
Yeah,
You take it out of the cap money. I don't want to deplete the capping money.
and before you
Number one,
start.
legally, I
Yeah.
can't, but number 2, I wouldn't even want to deplete that money and know that I'm gonna need it later. Now I'm kicking a cost can down the road. But if that's a cost that I have to bring that
That
up to
capping money
grade-
doesn't get us any interest though. That's
No,
one
but
thing.
I could only use it for
Certain,
capping.
yeah.
No, we would be definitely
I can't
capping
say
it.
I'd like to just spend it somewhere else.
Capping a piece of it.
Yeah, but effectively, that's what you're doing.
Capping grading.
So, right.
Yeah,
So if
capping
I know
grading,
that I'm
yeah.
gonna have to do that work to cap it, then I can say, okay, I'm saving it on the other end.
That's why I was thinking you could use
I
capping
have
money to
be
do
able-
some
but
of
it
that.
has to be-
But I think we gotta be in a procedure. We have to start it already, it had to be.
Yeah.
I have to be able to
Yeah.
say that there is a discussion of capping this thing actively happening.
Early,
Happy.
earlier.
Spend $100,000 on
Yeah.
that fund.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thank
Does
you.
anyone have
Are
anything
you
else?
around tomorrow? I've got a meeting with Barbara.
All right, I make a
I can
motion
either
to,
swing in after that.
Yeah.
Sam,
she has no
I'm making a
problem.
motion
I don't
to
want
close
that.
the meeting.
I
So,
second.
all right, well, I'll reach out tomorrow and talk to you then.
All in
Thank you,
favor?
and Heather, thank you for.
Thank you, thanks a lot. Thank you.
Call me tomorrow about material.
Can do. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Oh,
You guys,
sorry, there was somebody
If you have a
here.
moment, I'd like to touch on Crowboy's recycling facility, if that's possible.
Yes, come on. I have to reopen the meeting, sorry.
Okay.
Let's see. Sorry about that.
I won't take too much.
I didn't.
No, no, no,
I
no.
apologize. Closing our meeting.
My name is Mike Shuffler. I live on South Road. I abut not the parcel that's in question at Crowboy's, but another parcel that the same party owns. The parcel that I'm primarily concerned with is number 71 Mashpog. They also own another parcel of 99, and that's also on Mashpog. And there's another, I think the other parcel that I abut is 36 South Road. Those three parcels all touch together, and I abut the 36. Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar that there was a Superior Court settlement agreement between the town? And no, you don't, okay. They did. I thought this whole thing was dead last spring. I appeared in front of this board last spring on this same issue, and they did not re-up the permit, and I thought they were done.
That was going to be the end of it.
Yeah, well, it wasn't. They took it to Superior Court, and I haven't seen the agreement.
Who took it to Superior Court?
What's that?
Who went to Superior Court?
I'm assuming the town did, because I see the town, yes.
conservation of the
Yes.
lawsuit.
Conservation, you're right,
conservation,
right.
okay.
Yes, we're coming into this late. We just found out about it last week. We got notified by the Conservation Committee that they were going to be having a hearing on it, and I didn't know anything about the Superior Court case at that point. So I haven't seen a copy of it. Now, even the Conservation, Ed Goodwin was there, and he hadn't seen a copy of the final settlement the day of the meeting last week. So after we had, I don't know, there was probably 15 to 20 people from the Mashpog South Road area at the Conservation in this room, and the Conservation Committee decided to take it under advisement until April 24th, so they postponed it. But apparently nobody has a whole lot of information on it. There's not a whole lot of oversight being put into that junkyard as a result of the settlement. There's really, I don't know how much the Board of Health is actually going to get involved in it. It seems to be mostly conservation and zoning at this point, but one of the things I did want to bring up is one of the people from Mashpog got up and spoke and said that the junkyard really isn't a betterment for the town of any kind. When it was the junkyard under Crowboy had a retail operation going there. You could go there and get parts, you could buy cars, you could get a motor. They even sold cars. It was a total recycling operation. This operation has none of that. There's no retail going on at all. We don't even know what the operation is. They call it a facility to store cars. Okay, and then what do you do with them? No one seems to know. I still didn't get an answer at the conservation meeting either, even though the owner stood up and spoke at the end. And the person from Mashpog that did bring up the fact that it's not a betterment for the town, as a result of that, the owner of the junkyard got up at the end of the meeting and he addressed the whole forum and said, it is a betterment for the town. He's cleaned up the place. Well, it was part of the requirement of him taking over the business. It wasn't really something that he did, for us. He had to do that. But he also mentioned at the end that he's also running trash containers. Now, as far as I know,
He said that he's running trash containers?
yes, but I don't know if it's out of that facility or not, because he was very vague. He's Russian, he's got an accent. It was a little bit tough to follow. Now, I haven't seen any of the trash containers, but we don't know of any trash hauling permits that have been allowed and wouldn't even be part of his permit.
No, he
So,
doesn't have a permit through us.
you might want to, maybe the Conservation Department would have a better idea on it. They took the whole thing under advisement.
We requested to actually do a walkthrough on that, and
Yes.
We were denied that.
Yes,
That's
I
when
know.
it went to
That
court,
was when
but
it
I
went
didn't
to
know
court.
that the results, have you seen the results?
I haven't
No?
seen the results, no. I know that
But I know the
that
Board of
they-
Selectmen had.
Yeah, they settled, I don't know if it was October, November, but they settled the case.
I don't think it's a full settlement. I think it's an agreement.
An agreement.
But it's still open, it's still open to be worked on.
Agreement to do what was the
What he
agreement?
could do or not do, I guess, right?
You guys look at me. This wasn't with us, and we weren't
We weren't involved in
We
it.
weren't-
I know.
in that-
Well, see, this is part of the whole issue that the whole neighborhood has. We've been playing with this thing for 5 or 6 years now, since Kerboy turned it over to the Russians. We don't have any kind of a junkyard regulations set up of any kind in this town. So all the board can do, if you hear about something, is make recommendations to the town. There's no legal ramifications to us to do anything.
So this has been put off by the Conservation
Yeah,
Commission?
until April 24th. They're going to have another meeting on it.
They probably.
So are they
need to
taking
get-
comments currently?
Well, they were taking all the comments from it. The lawyer from the junkyard was here. The manager of the junkyard was here as well. And they had all the maps out.
They filed a notice of intent
Yes.
to take care of what their settlement is, what they've come to an agreement on, and whether it's a settlement or an agreement, however you want to look at it, but that's what they were doing, and it was what's been discussed with me, is they're removing, cars and tires and stuff from the 50-foot buffer zone to their, resource areas,
Yeah,
so.
everything that's near the buffer zone had to be moved,
Okay.
There's
which that comes under conservation, so that's how it got there.
a brook that runs through the property.
Yeah.
Because it was in the buffer zone.
Yeah, it's in a buffer zone near the
So
stream.
there was things that, before, I didn't even know it went to court. Before that, there was a couple of things that the Board of Health had actually brought up.
Okay,
That was monitoring wells
yes.
around the facility so that
Yeah,
we
that's-
could
that's-
monitor
that-
what was going
There
in
are
there.
still some wells being monitored ongoing in this. Some of the houses do have treatment setups in their basement, yes.
And the other thing was, there was tires around the
Yes.
facility
Yes.
that we wanted, well, we never got to see the eyeballs
Well,
ourselves
that's
down
part of-
there, because we were concerned because we did have mosquito issues
Well, the
this
owner,
past summer.
the owner said that he took out 8,000 tires. Now, whether he took them out or not, I don't have a clue.
Well, I would be
Hopefully
interested to know
conservation
where they
probably
actually
knows.
Well,
went.
conservation couldn't get on it either. Now, Becky Goudreau was the conservation
Right.
agent until last spring and took a job working for the state. And she was never allowed access to the property. Now, as a
I
result.
think they did get to go.
It must
they
have-
did
that's
do a
what the settlement
walkthrough.
was.
The Conservation Department did get onto the property both in August and I think in November of this year.
My other question, do you know if they mentioned, does he have workers working there?
Yes, but we don't know what they're doing.
Well, so they do they have a facility to use the restroom there?
I don't know that. They redid the house. George Kerboy had a house right in front of the place, and they rehabbed the whole house. I don't know when.
That is a question on the house too,
Okay.
because they never had a Title V with
No,
us.
they never had a Title V done
So
on
there's
it.
no Title V with
It's one,
us.
it's one of these deals where the town, he paid cash for the whole thing, so because he paid cash, they never did a Title V. And they weren't occupying the house at the time. It was just,
It was
just sitting there.
occupied before, though. I
Yeah.
definitely know it was.
And it has all been rehabbed. So they would have facilities there. That's the only, I was friends with the Kerboys for the whole time they were there, and there was no facilities except in the house. So unless there could be facilities inside the office, because the office is brand new. Well, it was new when Kerboy put it in. So they had an old office, it was a shed on the right-hand side, and then they put a newer office building right in the middle. That might have a bathroom. I don't know if that one does or not. If they did, it has to be tied into the septic for the house, because there's certainly nothing else there. I never noticed a bathroom if it's there.
Plans for this place, Ted, anywhere?
No.
I can dig around and look. I don't have plans, but that was my comment to conservation for NOI. There's no
Title V.
Title V on that house done.
So apparently the
That was
board was
20
never notified about this settlement at all. Your opinion was never requested.
No.
Well, we put
Okay.
our input in at one time, but right
And that was a year ago.
Yeah, we put our input a year ago about the tires and about
Yes.
everything else. And then,
It all,
that was it, and then
Yeah.
with the conservation, for
yes.
the buffer zone, and that's the last we
Yeah,
heard.
Yes.
we were just.
Well,
Then we were out of that.
Well, now part of the problem is because that brook runs down through the center of the property they're presently using, they have to move the cars off it, for a buffer zone off the
yeah.
brook. So now they want to expand, I won't say expand, there's an airstrip. I don't know if you're familiar with there
Right,
being
yeah,
an
they
airstrip
had
there.
an airstrip
The airstrip has had no cars on it for, I don't know, 10 years. They took out all the cars prior to the sale, prior to the place even going up for sale. When Kerber was gonna fold it up, they just took everything and crushed everything that had a dollar to it, even sold the crusher, so everything was gone. And so there's been no cars there. Now they wanna take all the cars, from that buffer zone along the brook and put them back up on the airstrip again, and start stacking that. So that's another part of the problem. It's still the same piece of property, I think, but that airstrip goes all the way to my property. It goes through that 36 South Road and winds up going right up, my property goes right up to the end of the pavement of the airstrip. So, that's where my concern comes in.
Because you are direct
Yeah.
butter to where he wants to store cars.
Yes, and again, I don't know what they're doing with them, but what tends to happen with these junkyards is the cars sit, they get stripped,
Right.
and that's what Kerboy's done for years, sold parts, and the car eventually, just before it sinks into the mud and disappears, you haul it out and crush it. So all the oil, radiator fluid, anything that's in the car, nobody drains anything. That's another one of my questions. I wanted to find out from the court settlement if there was any provisions being made for recovery, storage, and disposal of all the waste from these cars. Nothing. It's real vague.
Conservation
And,
Day, they were trying to find out.
well, I'm hoping they would, but it's not in the court settlement. It's just, you'd have to see the court settlement. I'd get a hold of it if I were you.
I think we should.
There's no.
I think we should be able to get. We should ask for a copy of it.
Could ask for a copy.
I would think you
it should be
guys.
a public record.
I would think you guys should have at
Yeah,
least
issues.
yearly inspections on a property like that. I mean, if it was a gas station, you guys have regulations, this tall to put a gas station at the town. This is literally a repair garage. It's just that.
Yeah, I will tell you that I question whether or not it. So when Kerboy closed the facility, right? It was closed for a while, and then it wasn't like in continuous use. This guy bought it years later, say.
Years
couple
later, right.
Right?
Yes.
So it wasn't even in continuous use, and it's not even zoned for that.
You're right. It's
So
not.
my problem is, how did this town, it was never zoned for this.
In the
and
first
just
place.
like went, no, and the problem is that how they allowed something to, just like how we make everyone come up to the new regs or the
Right,
new
right.
whatever, to the new standard, why aren't we saying, hey, you're no longer a pig farm, or you're no longer this, or you're no longer that, and it's not been in continuous use. Okay, people use the grandfather, oh, it's been grandfathered,
That's-
whatever. It's not grandfathered. Once, I'll give you an example.
Well,
You want to know, no, let me
Yeah.
explain something, because it's very, very similar, because it's industrial use, okay? And that is the landfill in Southbridge, okay? For years, they were utilizing land that was actually in Charlton, that was zoned agriculture, for part of a landfill operation, and it was deemed by the Superior Court that no, you cannot use the landfill, this property in Charlton for part of your landfill
but-
operation, because it's an industrial
But
use, and it's the same way
Until
here.
you know what was in the settlement, which is key one.
I don't have it.
No,
Yes.
I'm not saying
yes.
that we or somebody finds
Yes.
out.
Okay.
We can't have a discussion until we know exactly what the settlement.
This is true. You're
Right? I mean,
you're absolutely
The
right.
settlement was they're allowing them to move the trucks there, then we got another whole argument. If it's 50 feet away and that's all he's doing, but it's affecting you, then you have another case.
So this,
But we don't
this
know
was,
what's in
but the
there.
settlement was for the Conservation Commission, is this correct?
And
the
Only-
town.
And the town.
For the town, that's all I can tell you.
Yeah.
It's more of a conservation issue opposed to Board of Health or anything else. Let me tell you, you take a look at our regulations. and
They're not happy. The Conservation Committee's not happy
They're
with
not
the
happy
settlement.
with the settlement
Not at
either.
all, because,
Okay.
yeah, there's no oversight on this place at all. They were on the place a couple times.
We just need to see
Yes.
what this thing is.
I get a hold of the settlement.
Court, there's gotta be a
Yes.
record.
Town
of what-
has,
There has to, there is,
And the town was the one negotiating with them.
It exists because the Conservation Department
does.
had copies of it at the
Can I tell you
meeting.
something? They can't, they can make a settlement about a one particular thing, but they can't
Yes.
make a settlement on things that are under our purview.
No, you're absolutely right.
Nobody knows what the settlement is.
Well, you have to
You
get,
have to see the settlement,
see the-
then we can then make
Well, I
a.
think I know
The town
somebody that knows
council.
somebody that knows what's in the
I don't have a
settlement.
copy, all I know is it was signed.
I'm just trying to let everybody know that there is actually a settlement out there, and what can we do about it?
yeah, the town council has it.
Town council on it.
Went to court.
We just asked
Also,
them.
I would assume whoever signed it, the selectmen signed it, right?
I would assume, if they went to court, but I don't know. I haven't seen it.
Conservation would have
Right.
been under them. so-
Yeah, conservation would have been on that. And Ed Goodwin doesn't know, well, he didn't know when you saw
He
it.
didn't see the final, he didn't see a copy of the final settlement until the meeting.
Oh, he
He
did
knew,
see
he
it.
knew it was ongoing, but he never saw a copy of the
Okay,
final.
he's seen it.
He only saw his final settlement the day of the meeting.
Okay,
So,
can I?
apparently the
just-
copies didn't come out, or at least they didn't get them to the Conservation Department, so.
We should probably ask, we could probably get it
Just
from
ask him, find
conservation.
out, and then we'll work
Yes.
from there.
We can get it from conservation.
Okay.
All
So
right.
that we can see what's in.
Yeah,
it.
I don't want to waste your time by just yelling and screaming about my complaints, yeah. Yep.
We sit and listen
No
to
problem.
that.
I forgot,
really got you up here, really.
I saw you there and I was like, oh geez.
That's all right, that's not a problem.
Can you do me a favor and sign in while you're here so we can
Yeah,
put you in
just
the
put
in
your
our
name
minutes?
on that list there, so. we know
Okay.
I
you're
have,
there.
I'm gonna close the meeting again.
Close
Make
it
a
again.
motion to,
4:05.
okay. So you saw I had to reopen the meeting.
Right,
Since we
put
had-
that down, it was a reopen close.
I apologize because we usually don't have people that come to see us, so.
So that's what I did.
The landfill?
Yeah, I thought
yeah.
they was living near it or something, you know.